Like everybody to stand for the prayer. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make the decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessings on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Now the pledge. Remain standing. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilor Mercia?
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo?
Here.
Councilor Nunn?
Here.
Mayor Samaras?
Here.
Councilor Cirillo?
Here.
Councilor Conway?
Here.
Councilor Elliott?
Here.
Councilor Kennedy?
Here.
Councilor Leahy?
Here.
None present.
All right, before we begin, are there any moments of silence? Okay. Councilor Mercia, then Councilor
Thank you, Mr.
Milanazzo.
Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for Robert C. McGuire, formerly of the Highlands section of Lowell and a member of a well-known Greater Lowell family. Bob was the beloved husband of 43 years to the late Helen McGuire, who died in 1997. He attended St. Michael's Grammar School and was a graduate of Keith Academy with the class of 1945. He then went on to attend Providence College in Rhode Island. A veteran during the Korean conflict, Bob proudly served his country as a corporal in the United States Army in Germany and throughout Europe. Before retiring, he was the administrator of the Lowell Regional Transit Authority. Previously, he was employed as a field accountant for the New England Power Service Company for many years. Dedicated to public service, Bob served as the mayor of Lowell twice, first as the 68th mayor from 1968 to 69, and later as the 74th from 1980 to 81. In addition, he served on the city council for 16 years. He was a candidate for Congress in 1968. A communicant of St. Margaret's Church most of his life, Bob was a member of the Knights of Columbus, Council Number 72. Mr. McGuire is survived by 4 children, Michael, Lynn, Patricia, and Robert C. McGuire Jr., and 10 grandchildren. In closing, while socializing with friends, the shooter, AKA Bob, would raise a glass and say, "Come tarry here and friendly be, to quaff the foaming brew, a friendly smile, a song, a dance, to cheer the heart of you." May you rest in peace, my dear friend Bob. Our sympathy to your family, relatives, and many friends. You will be truly missed. We also offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber to all those who have passed away since our last city council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Roger Martin, a loving father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Roger Martin, 90 years of age, a member of a well-known Lowell family, died Saturday, April 7th, at the Duval Senior Care, surrounded by his loving family. He was the beloved husband of the late Catherine K. Martin, who died in 2004. Roger was born in Lowell, Massachusetts in 1927. He attended Lowell High School, but like many his age, he had his high school interrupted, and he served in the United States Navy during World War II and was a proud veteran. He then graduated from the high school in 1945. He furthered his education, went on to get a Bachelor of Arts and a Master's degree in Education from Fitchburg State College. And before retiring, Roger was employed as a Director of Industrial Arts for Lowell Public Schools, where he worked for over 44 years. He was an active sportsman. He was a tremendous handball player, but what he loved most was going to see his children and his grandchildren play in sports. Mr. Martin is survived by 4 children: Kathleen Whitaker, our former mayor, Brian J. Martin, Elizabeth McNamara, and David Martin. He also has 2 daughter-in-laws, Linda Martin and Laney Martin. He has 22 grandchildren and 26 great-grandchildren. He was also the father of the late Roger Martin, James Martin, Peter Martin, the brother of the late John Martin, and Brenda Finnerty. He also had a very special relationship with a nephew, Hugh Murphy, from Gardner, Mass. Roger was quite an individual. He loved this city, and he certainly loved his family, and he'll be truly missed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Doc in the chambers. Thank you. Before we go into mayor's business, the Veterans Commission gave honor to 4 veterans. Each quarter, they honor a Veteran of the Month, and there were 4 veterans who were honored tonight in the mayor's chambers. One was Harold Moscovitis. Harold, please stand. George Anthus, stand. George Zaharoulis could not be with us. And Kevin Richardson. We honor you for your service. Would you please come before the rail, into the rail, so we can have a picture? All 3. We thank them for their service, not only to their country, but to their community. All 4 men have done a lot of great work in the greater Lowell area. Thank you. All right, under mayor's business, we have 2 items. One is to vote on the city manager's contract, but I also included, because of a lot of issues raised, information about the high school, some of the problems that have been raised at the high school. I want to make sure that you're provided with adequate information. Okay. So we have. I know. All right. I now need, in order to vote to execute the employment agreement between the City of Lowell and incoming City Manager Eileen Donahue, I need a motion to release the contract as amended to take it out of executive session.
So moved.
Mr.
Second it.
Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Thank you. All right, the next. I'm sorry. We have to have a roll call. Thank you. Roll call.
Counselor Mercia?
Do you think we should talk about what this contract is about, or are we just going to
Just
vote?
allow it to come out of
Oh, all right.
executive session.
Okay, yes.
Counselor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Counselor Cirillo?
Yes.
Counselor Conway?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Leahy?
Yes.
9.
Okay. Thank you. Now, we need a vote to execute the employment agreement between the City of Lowell and the incoming City Manager, Eileen Donahue. And what I need, prior to the opening of the matter, prior to opening this matter, I'm going to ask the city solicitor to walk us through the essential terms and conditions of the agreement. Okay?
So the City of Lowell has had these employment agreements
most recently from 2006 to about 2014. And in those recent agreements, this current employment agreement is modeled after. The essential terms is that it is, again, a 4-year agreement. It mirrors the current salary of the former city manager at $196,000. There are provisions that the incoming manager will agree to remain in the exclusive employment of the city of Lowell. There's also a notice should the manager leave the employment prior to the termination of the agreement itself. There are comparable benefit packages with respect to sick and vacation leave. It includes the full use of an automobile and also an indemnification provision. Where it is different from prior employment agreements is that there is no longer a severance package, there is no longer any sort of sick leave buyback, and there are no longer sort of guaranteed COLA or merit increases as have appeared in previous employment agreements of this nature.
All right. Any questions from the City Council? Councilor Milonazo.
Let me just begin by thanking the mayor's office and the city solicitor's office for working on this agreement and bringing it both to the executive session and to the open session. Could you just highlight the changes that were made in executive session? Again, assuming that's, because there were changes made, so I just wanted the audience to.
Sure, and in addition to the items that I had mentioned, in the prior employment agreement, there was also a provision for long and short-term disability insurance, and that also has been withdrawn. So this agreement, again, to sort of recap, would no longer have that provision, no longer have a severance clause, no longer have sick leave buyback, and no longer have defined merit increases on certain dates pursuant to performance evaluations, and no longer has guaranteed COLA increases. And those are all changes from the prior employment agreements with former city manager Bernard Lynch.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any further discussion, councilors, regarding this matter? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in executive session, I didn't support this. I just want the people at home to know. First, I had the utmost respect for Eileen, city manager-elect Donahue. I have all the confidence in the world that she is going to do great work, and that's why I voted for her. But I want to be consistent with my concern about contracts. And we had a memorandum of understanding for both the superintendent for a number of years, as well as the current city manager had an MOU. And I feel this way because all of our department heads serve at the will. They don't have a contract, and they go to work every day, just like me and millions of other Americans, where there's no contract, there's no guarantee. I'd like to have perhaps like a guarantee of a 4-year, commitment at my work. But I think like most Americans and Lowellians, we have to go to work every day and we have to prove ourselves. And that's my concern, as well as just a level playing field with all the other department heads in the city. There is an ordinance. There are certain stipulations for vacation time and sick time and things of that nature. And that's why I do not support it. It's not a reflection on the new city manager at all whatsoever. So I just wanted to make that clear and be consistent as the way that I have been. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Anyone else wishes to discuss this matter? Raise any points? Would you mind if I just gave my talking points from the podium, or is there a preference I step down?
No, say it.
Okay. But Councilor Elliott makes, he gives very good, valid reasons, but we all have good reasons for what we do. But I worked and negotiated this contract with the city solicitor. But from my own background, I've always supported employment contracts for certain positions. And frankly, one of the reasons is the majority, if not all, of the city managers throughout the Commonwealth have some type of contract. But I think the thing about contracts, it gives some stability to the community. I think a lot of business people, when they're looking to come into Lowell, say, is the community stable? Knowing that you're going to have a leader in the city that really is going to be there for a certain period of time. And if he or she does their job reasonably well, they're going to be supported. There are many ways of looking at this, and who is to say which one of us are more correct? But the thing is, having worked under a contract and having not worked under a contract, I can tell you there's a big difference in being able to do your job well if you get the type of support. And also one thing about this present employment contract, while setting it out, the terms and duties, the salary, we did eliminate provisions such as sick leave buyback, severance pay, and guaranteed COLAs. So the thing, yes, she has a contract, but I'm going to tell you something, she gave up a lot, which most communities have given their city managers. So I want to really thank Senator Donahue for negotiating with us, but, giving us the latitude to work out, I think, an agreement that fits the needs of the city of Lowell and for herself. So, Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mayor. I do share your expression as to why we should have contract for incoming manager Donahue. She actually, you're right. This contract is different than the one that the city council gave to then manager Lynch. Senator Donahue's give up a lot because she loved the city. And we see that in her interview, and she will really demonstrate that. I think having contract give her an assurance that she will be here a year and a half from now when new council come in, because that new council may have different philosophy from her. And yet, because they didn't vote for her, now she may be find the door a year and a half from now, which is not fair to any incoming city manager. So if we expect her to do a good job, we need to entrust in her and give her this contract. And I'm glad my councilor agreed to it. And she will be the first woman city manager in the history of this city.
Correct.
We should all be proud of that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion? I need a vote to approve and execute the employment agreement.
Move to approve.
I'm sorry, we'll go through it this way. To execute the employment agreement between the City of Lowell and incoming City Manager Eileen Donahue, waive the full reading, the second reading by title, to execute the employment agreement between the City of Lowell and incoming City Manager Eileen Donahue. I need a motion to adopt
So moved.
by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Noon.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
On the motion, I thought in executive session there was discussion regarding the vehicle, and Council Cirillo wanted to ensure that in the future, I'm not sure if that's in the agreement or if it needs to be, that the next vehicle, we consider an electric vehicle for the city manager? Was that, I thought there was a motion made?
I believe that was,
And I thought it was a Tesla. Didn't you want a Tesla?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was,
we
I
could-
thought, I
we could
I thought it
thought,
was a motion.
Yeah.
I thought,
Well,
Council-
I thought, I did bring that up, and that's something that I do want. But I thought that it would be set and forward as a motion. We talked about that. And
Well,
so
city solicitor?
that's why I didn't bring it up, because I'm looking forward to it. But, so please verify city solicitor, but
Councilor
yes,
Mercia,
that
if it's
is,
a Tesla, we're going to be
that
fighting
was,
for
it was.
I don't know if we said a Tesla, but.
It was a Tesla.
The Tesla motion definitely didn't pass. But yes, the discussion took place. It was something that was communicated to the incoming city manager. And what was also discussed really was that as part of a larger upcoming motion, the council would deal with that as a policy matter.
Yes.
And it's one that's fully supported by the incoming city manager.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, roll call.
Counselor Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Nun?
Yes.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Counselor Cirillo?
Yes.
Counselor Conway?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
No.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Leahy?
Yes.
The motion passed. Well, we have to say if City Manager Eileen Dunham is watching, congratulations to her. All right,
Mayor,
yes.
could you just give us a little information? I just want to thank our city clerk, our fill-in manager, Mr. Geary, for his service this week, but could you just inform us the incoming manager, she's going to start tomorrow, or
I'll ask the city
information
solicitor.
on that?
Yes, so she will be starting first thing tomorrow morning. She has made arrangements with the acting city manager slash city clerk to be sworn in, and will commence work.
Okay. So we just want to thank Manager, I guess we can call you Manager Geary, so, Manager Geary, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I
But,
appreciate the confidence in me, and I enjoyed it up there. You made me work the hardest, Councilor Leahy. I just want to thank the department heads that the transition was really seamless. They're still working hard, everybody's working hard. The administration, the office, behind the wall here is working extremely hard. It was really made my job easy. They're doing a terrific job, as they've done for the past. And my office, the clerk's office down there, held it all together. Proud of what they did, and glad to do it.
thank you. But tell them when they came in about 2 o'clock and said, we got a problem at the high school, we want some answers. There was a problem, there's been a problem over the past couple of days. The high school, there has been some concern. I asked the acting city manager if he could have a report for us, so if there are any questions by this council, we could address them tonight rather than wait 2 weeks for another meeting, because this is important to all of us. So, Mr. Acting City Manager, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to have Chief Winwood come up here now just to kind of give you an assessment about what happened down there today. He'll fill you in. Then I'm going to have Mr. Underwood, who's been on the scene all day, fill you in about the status, and we'll get back to it.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. So we got a call late this morning that there was a very slight odor of gas in the gymnasium area of the high school. So the fire department responded, checked out the area with meters. They found no readings at the floor level of the gymnasium. So we called in National Grid. National Grid tech came in, and they went up to the ceiling area on a lift, and they metered the area up by the heaters up there. And there was a very slight gas leak. So we had evacuated the gym and the pool area. We held a meeting, and there was a joint decision made to evacuate all the students over to the Songa Center. And that evacuation went very well. There were no injuries. The kids acted very professionally, so we thank them for that. We shut down the gas main to both the 1980 building and the gymnasium. And then a contractor was brought in. And as we speak, the contractor is over at the high school making repairs. They're going to check all the pipes in both the 1980 building and the gymnasium for any leaks. They're going to make any repairs necessary. They've replaced the valves on the heaters up at the ceiling in the gymnasium. After they are assured that there are no leaks in the gas pipes, they're going to go through each unit. There's approximately 30 heating units and hot water heaters in both the 1980 building and the gymnasium. And they're going to make sure that they're running properly, they're not misfiring, and that there's no gas being emitted from these units. So the readings we found this morning were not dangerous, but just because of the very nature of the natural gas, we wanted to use an abundance of caution. We wanted to evacuate the kids while repairs were being made. And we'll know a little bit later on tonight if we'll be able to have school tomorrow. We'll get a report from the contractor. Once all the repairs are made, a representative from National Grid is going to do an inspection of all the pipes and all the units over there, as well as the city gas inspector. So if anyone has any questions, I can take them at this time.
First, could we make it clear that the superintendent of schools is waiting until 8 o'clock to make a decision if there would be school tomorrow based on how much work has to be done, correct?
That's correct. He'll get a report from the contractor.
I just want to make sure the council knows that. Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the chief. This is the second gas leak, right?
Correct.
When was the first gas leak? A couple of days ago?
Friday.
Friday. So how did we handle the first gas leak? In other words, if we're handling this gas leak appropriately, what did we do Friday that's different from what we're doing today? Do you follow me? Like, why didn't we do everything Friday so that there would not be another gas leak? Or could it be that even though this leak's taken care of, that there could be another gas leak on Friday?
Perhaps Mr. Underwood could talk a little bit about the repairs?
Good evening, everybody. So we did have a gas leak Friday. Everything was done in protocol exactly the same way.
So did we have National Grid come in?
Yes, we did.
We take readings at the floor level?
We did.
And there was no gas leak at the floor level on
Friday's
Friday?
Friday's leak was worse than we had today. Friday's leak was, we had a 17% gas leak on one of the valves in a shut-off position and 7% gas leak on the other one in a shut-off position. So meaning, if the gas valve was opened all the way up, you'd have 100% gas leak. When that was shut off, we still had a blow bypass of 17%. So it was a significant gas leak. Today's gas leak was,
Wait, excuse me.
okay.
So what did we do to rectify that the Friday gas leak?
Well, we immediately shut off the gas to the building. We brought in a contractor. They replaced those two cock valves that were on top of the gymnasium, those identified heaters.
Okay.
And then we retested that and got the okay from National Grid to
Okay, so at some point, after Friday's leak was discovered, we took action and then there was no gas leak, right?
That's correct.
And when did we do those readings?
It's right after the repairs were done.
So on Friday?
On
Or
Friday.
on the weekend? On
Friday night, yeah.
All right, and then there ended up being another gas leak today?
Correct.
Okay. Do you think, are the two related?
Well, we're still trying to figure that out. I do think they are related, and in my eyes, what happened was when National Grid came into the gymnasium on Friday afternoon, the first thing they did is they had a meter on there, and what it read was improper combustion, mixed with the gas, so they had two different gas readings. So after the gas was fixed on Friday, we pressurized everything, we checked it, we had no gas leaks. But I think what happened was, because we had a improper gas combustion unit running, you automatically assume that that's a carbon monoxide or fume things, but sometimes it's gas itself. The gas is not burning correctly going through that, so you get a bit of blow-by on that. And I think that's what happened today, because we checked all the units and all the pipes, all the vents. We had a small gas leak on 2 more units in that gymnasium, but they was so minute that it was almost impossible to, at least everybody's thought that you could smell them in such a large area of the gymnasium. It was 1/4% of a gas leak on the valve, which may have been like that for years, they said. You know, they can't actually say. But none of us felt that that was the gas leak that we were smelling at the time of today. We thought that there was something else. So we're just going through each individual unit tonight. We're going to be there all night until we can figure it out. I've made the recommendation to the superintendent, regardless if we think we can fix it tonight, not to have school for tomorrow, just because we don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
We want to take the time, go through every single unit, and do what we need to do to figure out what's going on.
Okay. Is there just one location where the gas
We had,
gas leak?
we had 4 locations that we detected a gas leak at the Lowell High School on Friday.
Okay. And where are those locations? Are they all in the gym?
No, we had 2 in the gymnasium
Yep.
on 2 heaters, and we had 2 in the field house first floor unit adjacent to the boys' locker room and the girls' locker room, and that supplies heat to that first floor unit.
Okay. And where were the leaks today? How many? 4 again?
No, today, we had 2 detectable leaks today, again, 1/4% in the gymnasium on separate units. There's 4 heater units in the gymnasium. 2 of them were inoperable before the leaks were detected, and 2 were running. The 2 that were inoperable, we did not check Friday. In hindsight, we should have, but we assumed because they were not running and they had been deactivated quite some time ago and the gas shut off, that we didn't feel that that's where the gas leak was coming from. We didn't take the time to check those. We did today. We did a more extensive check of all the different units today than we did Friday. In hindsight, should we have done it Friday? Yeah.
Okay. Have there been gas leaks before, prior to Friday, at all?
Not that I know of. Not since I've been here in the 2 years.
Okay. And the cause of the gas leaks, do you think it's because the infrastructure is old and is wearing out? Or?
Absolutely. The gas valves that were there were the original gas valves from 40 years ago. So, you know.
But over on the other side of the canal, how old are those gas valves? Are they, that's...
I really don't know that.
Okay.
I believe the heating units in the new building are up on the roof. So if there were an issue up there, the gas would dissipate into the atmosphere.
Okay.
Excuse me, I could answer Councilor Kennedy's question. We've had several gas leaks over the years from within the first 5 years of the opening of the building. It's just the nature of those units that hang up and they vibrate. And I had to shut down the Lord building, I believe in 1993, for gas leaks there.
Okay. And do you think, Mr. Mayor, that there were gas leaks after 93?
Possibly, yes.
All right, periodically?
Periodically.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sorry, Councilor Mercer, then Councilor
Thank you,
Willows,
Mr.
then Councilor Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm bringing forward what I say from members of the city, both emails that all of us got, and I got quite a few phone calls from parents that are nervous about it. And when you hear the word gas leak and your child is in that building, that's a very scary prospect, considering the fact that as a layperson and a mother, I don't know the first thing about gas, but I know enough to get the heck out of the building. And I don't know that that was done because a section where the gas leak was, the students were let out, and they weren't brought over to the Songus Arena, which that's the first evacuation plan. So you need not trying to say you, but there should be another plan in place when you can't go into the Songus Arena because a home show was there. But when you think of a home show at the Songus Arena, it has nothing to do with the seating, I don't think. So those students should have been led right there. That's my opinion, and I don't know the first thing about evacuation plan, but you don't bring them back in and let them sit there and then decide, gee, we're gonna let them out again, and maybe we'll send them home. There's no structured plan. Either you go there, whether there's a home show being set up or what. And if there is a full-fledged show going on, have a backup plan. These kids need to be safe, and they have a concern about that. So they wanted to know with the gas leak situation, what is going to be done to guarantee that the safety of the high school students and to resolve the further disruptions to the students, staff, teachers during the current school year. And I think Councilor Kennedy said that, and you kind of said what you had to say. But I'm nervous when I hear you say, but we still don't know the cause. Uncertainty there, uncertainty, kind of scary to me. These are part of the reasons the people told me why they supported a brand new school. I'm just throwing that out there. People want to know what plans were in place. I think they don't have plans in place for interruptions that happen, and when are they going to happen again? People are frustrated, they told me. They're wondering when it's going to stop, when they can stop being nervous about sending their children to school. Sloppy evacuation with the first gas leak, I said that, and I'm understanding that 2 helicopters were circling the city. It's not the attention that I think this city should be getting. And why, oh why, would you call, when you have a gas leak, you call DPW? This is what I'm understanding from parents. It isn't up to DPW, it's up to the fire department. That's a waste of time. I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just relaying messages from people, and that's what I'm sitting in the seat for, to be their messenger, and this is what they're saying, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything that they said to us. Thank you, I'm sorry, but...
No, that's okay, and I absolutely agree, but just shine some light on it. We have a protocol that we follow for a gas leak. The first thing is we call the fire department, we call the gas company, and then we call DPW. We don't call DPW first. The first one that was called was the fire department, and we actually pulled the fire alarm, and then called the gas company, then called DPW, then called Sean Shanahan's office, Mike McGovern's office, and went right down the line. But just to be clear, when the kids came back into the building after we detected the gas leak, they didn't come back into the building until the gas was shut off to that. National Grid came in, they shut the gas off to the entire building. Then we brought the kids back in, and then we started looking around. But at that time that we brought the kids back in on the first gas leak, like I said, the gas was shut off, and there was no detectable gas in any spots at that time.
So that's how you solve a problem? You just shut the gas off, so there's
Shut the
no
gas
leak
off
there?
To
But
the entire building.
But then you addressed the problem once they were gone, right?
We did.
Because just shutting something off isn't,
Well, we didn't just shut it off and let the kids in. We shut it off. We took readings through the fire department and the gas company. So before we brought anybody in, we did a full sweep of the building, same as we did today. Once the gas was shut off, we went to each and individual floor, the gymnasium, the basement. So we checked everything for detectable gas leaks or detectable gas odor throughout the building before anybody came back.
is the correction fixed?
Pardon me?
Is this problem corrected?
At this particular moment, no, it is not.
So you wouldn't send children back to the same situation tomorrow, right?
They will, yeah, no, they will all
Okay.
be in school tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Another thing we did, Counselor, is once we detected a gas leak, we never let any children back into the gym or the pool area, which is where the leak remained. We did let children back into the 1980 building, and there was never any gas in the 1980 building.
Okay, thank you.
So, Councilor Cirillo?
Hi, yes. This is why my very two first motions as a city councilor was to be proactive with regards to the health of our municipal buildings. Because this reactionary situation is not working. We've had our schools with gas leaks, no heat, water in the Pollard Library. This is why my first two motions were to let's get a plan together. Let's start inspecting our municipal buildings in July to have a list for August so that we can start with fixing any issues that we had arise in our review of the buildings. And so I still, and I know that the maintenance schedule on these big ticket items like the HVAC units have, with new people coming in, they've kind of gone to the wayside, but I really feel that we need to get that back. We need to start on a schedule of maintenance for our buildings and the units in our buildings. It's so very important. And to set the money aside to be able to make these repairs. Because throughout the whole school year, our schools have been riddled with issues that I think, and I honestly and truly feel that had these items been, these pieces of equipment been maintained throughout their life, this would have been mitigated. So I really feel that come July, we need to be in our municipal buildings and reviewing everything and turning everything on and making sure everything works. Because I don't want to see this happen come next fall season. So thank you.
Councilor Conway?
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Samarison. And I certainly agree with Councilor Cirillo. I think that, let me ask through you to Mr. Underwood. You were talking about the pipes. You figure those are the original pipes there?
The gas contract that was there today felt like they were 40 years old.
Okay, the original pipes, original fittings, and so forth. And are those checked periodically at all?
I can tell you, I don't know that for sure, who actually, what they check when they do it. Those two particular units in many of the units in the gymnasium have had ongoing issues this year, so they have been looked at several times.
Okay.
But they've been looked at for repairs, not for getting them in great working order. So I think one of the problems that we had was the improper combustion issue with that is the fact that it was not running correctly. That will be something else we'll be addressing Monday, tomorrow, along with all the other things. We're going to service those 4 heaters in those gymnasium to clean the filters.
I appreciate that. And I think, again, what's been brought out, it's been brought out numerous times on the school committee, over the years that I was there, and also I know I certainly have heard it in the city council too, is that we don't have a preventative maintenance program for our buildings. And that's a shame, because you have to just take something very simple. Take your own car. Every 3,000 miles or whatever it is, you have to change the oil. Now, does that mean you can go 4,000 or 5,000 or 6,000 miles without changing? Yeah, perhaps. But you know the longevity of that car is not going to, it's not going to last. But if you do those changes and repairs, you're going to get a lot more, you're going to get more money, bang for your buck. And I think that's something that we've talked about, as I said, numerous times. It goes in one ear, it goes out the other ear. The other things that we talked about, and Mr. Samaras, the Mayor Samaras will certainly back us up on this, is that, you know, my thing is, and I spent over 40 years down in the high school, I would simply say, well, the heating system, why wait until January 12th to put on the heating system? Why not put that on in the fall, so if there's any problems, and there always were problems, that it would give us time to order the parts, get everything set, so that we don't have the issues. And I'll tell you, I can't remember a year that we've gone through, at the high school in particular, that we didn't have a heating problem. It's amazing. And then the other thing is, you know, I took a tour of the building a while ago, and somebody said, well, we need a new building. I said, yeah, all right. The roof has been leaking for the last 10 years, 12 years. Now, can you imagine if you let your house or any of us in here take 10 years and the roof is leaking? I mean, I would think that you're going to fix it. And then somebody said, well, it's going to cost over $1 million. But in reality, it's going to cost us a heck of a lot more money if we don't fix it right away. So, I mean, I think, again, this, no matter what building is built, and again, we've got a lot of tired buildings around right now. I mean, I think we have to get somebody, and again, I'm not talking about someone's brother-in-law or cousin or mother-in-law. I'm not talking about someone just because they've been here for 30 or 40 years. We need someone that has the experience, the knowledge, and the understanding to help us out with these buildings. And just to address Councilor Mercia, you're absolutely right about the designating seating. There's a designating seating plan when there's an evacuation at the high school. There's certain sections that houses or students will sit in, so that the teachers can check. So there is you know, they do cover that. But again, what I don't quite understand is you have some type of a gas leak, and they shut it off, and then they come back into the school. I don't get that. I really don't get that. To be honest with you, at my school, we had one, and we called the fire department right away. And right away, we got those kids out of that building and sent home. And I said point blank, I'm not going to let those kids back in the building. I don't care if it takes a day, 2 days, or 3 days. You got to find out where this smell is coming from, because I think parents want to know that their children are going to be safe. So I think that we're going to have to, you know, look at that again. That just by shutting something off, I don't think that's going to. We have to go further than that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Leahy.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, I'll listen to.
Well, I'm not here to make excuses for anything, just giving answers, but this is the perfect case scenario of why these things do happen. Now, right now, like you were saying, we should, in a perfect world, have DPW going around checking our schools for our air conditioning. That's going to be coming on very soon.
Correct.
But very much like it happens every year, the same employees that are going to be working on the air conditioner are putting out problems with the heating. And we'll work on these heating systems right up until the first day that it's very hot. Absolutely. And then everything will switch and we'll go to air conditioning. There's just no, and it's not my problem to find, it's really lies here. It's to find the money and the means to put more people into the schools, because we're running very thin, and you can't have, I mean, you're going to take somebody off a heating issue and say, hey, next week it may be hot, go fix the air conditioning. No, you have to deal with the problems on hand at the time. And right now, we're still working on heating issues, so we'll probably work on those right up until air conditioning, and then we'll work right up on the air conditioning needs right up until the first day of heat. I know there was a report not too long ago that was done that identified the need for more DBW employees. We know that, so that's part of the problems. And as far as changing your oil on a car and stuff like that, I'll use the same analogy. If you have a 30-year-old car and you replace a brand-new transmission in it, you can be sure that next week your heater core is going to go, or your radiator is going to go. You know, at this point, the mechanics of the high school, the roofs, the so-and-so, they're far gone. Next time it rains, we're going to have a leak in the roof. Next time it's hot, we're going to have an air conditioner that works. Next time it's cold, some heat is not going to work. Not everything. We hope that the majority of it works, but we're really running around putting out fires. And to take 29 schools and 6 HVAC guys and say, all right, no more heating. We're going to have AC next. I mean, it's going to be hot next week. Let's all work on AC. That works in a perfect world, but it doesn't work all the time.
Well, I think that what that does is it just magnifies the fact of what we were talking about tonight, is that we need a strategic plan on how to handle this. That's what we have to do going forward on it. So instead of a plan that's piecemeal, I think we need something that's a very comprehensive plan, so that we can take a look at it and perhaps fund it in stages, so that we can get the job done. Because again, we're always playing catch up, and I mean, this is the taxpayers' money, and money is tight every time you turn around. I mean, look at the stuff that we're faced with right now. Not to get into the weeds of this, but there's a lot of repairs. There's a lot of things that have to be done here, so we have to spend the money as wisely as possible. So I think some type of a plan, Mr. Mayor, if between the school department and the city coming together, and develop a plan that will take a look at these buildings right now. And I know we've looked at them before, I get that. But apparently, as Council Cirillo said, this hasn't worked yet. So we need to go back to the table and fix it. Thank you.
There are several motions in play, but Council Leahy.
Yeah,
Then
I just wanted
then
to
Council
add,
Kennedy, then Council Malinowski.
I just wanted to add, so first of all, I just want to say that when I went over to the high school today, they are working on the problem. Should we have worked on it all weekend? Yeah, we should have. But we are where we are right now. To answer Councilor Mercier's question, we do normally go over to the Songus Arena, and they probably should have let the students in. It should have taken preference over the show. The second plan is they go up to the recreation center up at Lowell, because I asked that, where do they go? I'm surprised, Mr. Mayor, you don't have anybody from the school here, We
No.
should have had somebody, I'm just not blaming you, I'm
Well,
just
hold
saying.
on. No, I can answer
No,
that question.
Okay, well, we're
I
on.
mean, I'm going to finish off by giving you the superintendent's remarks, and he did ask if I wanted the high school principal there, but I feel I can answer his questions, okay, and address what happened. They also have the information, so it's not necessarily, but let me tell you this. Superintendent Kalfawi will not open schools tomorrow if by 8 o'clock he's not made aware that they have found every area that's possibly leaking gas. As far as what they did in the evacuation plans, I talked with them regarding both. And my own opinion, would I have done something differently? Probably, or what have you. But the thing is, everything was done reasonably. The children were always safe. One of the things they did on the first time, they moved the children out, then they moved the children into the 22 building, which is, literally a block away from the high school, but the gas was shut off. I've been through that maybe 5 or 6 times during my tenure at the time, but the equipment's getting older, and the question is not whether it's a new school out of Collie or a new school downtown. The issue is we got to take care of the problems that we have here, and it's not where the school is built, it's what happens afterwards. I mean, there's no question we need a new high school. But the thing is, the superintendent was willing, but the public should know tonight that school will not be open unless the company going in can justify all 28 pieces of equipment are not leaking gas, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so that's
So,
to meet
all
the
right.
safety of the children.
All right, I just feel like somebody from the administration should have been here tonight.
But the thing,
I'm
we
just
have the
saying that.
administration, I
Well, I
understand.
don't think that the facilities manager should be telling us that there isn't any school tomorrow. So
No, he
I'm
wasn't.
just saying that.
No, it was
All
gonna be
right, let me just finish.
John,
I'm
it was
just
gonna be
saying.
mine,
All right.
all right?
I think someone should have been here.
Okay.
Second of all, yeah, we have to make some hard choices this year at the budget. We can't have our pet projects done if we want to get serious about fixing the buildings. So we've had several school committee members here over the years, myself, Mr. Leary, Mr. Conway, that have come up, and now we realize the tough choices that have to be made on the council side. But we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know, what are we gonna give up to get this project done? And that's what we should be doing this year. So, it's not easy, we gotta make sacrifices. We are redoing the high school, these problems would be happening no matter what. So let's move on, correct these issues, and get going with the new high school. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Kennedy? And then Mr. Milazzo, and Mr. Noon.
For one thing, I think it's fine that Mr. Underwood's here, since probably if there was somebody from the school administration here, they would just be referring the questions to Mr. Underwood anyways. However, what's a little confusing to me is, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned about 10 or 15 minutes ago that at 8 o'clock, the superintendent was gonna make a decision on whether or not there was school tomorrow. And then Mr. Underwood, a few minutes ago, said there was gonna be no school tomorrow. So does anybody know, like, there's
myself in
people
trouble.
watching this that wanna know if there's school tomorrow or not, so.
I'm telling you the conversation I had at maybe 3 o'clock, 3:30 with the superintendent.
I'm getting
But
text
also, I
messages
think
now that
the
there's no
city-
school.
the city manager,
Excuse me?
go ahead.
Is there school tomorrow?
Conversation, I had an initial conversation with the superintendent, then he had called me back a short time later.
Excuse me, just so you'll know, after I talked with the superintendent, I asked him to contact the acting city manager to ensure that they were both together as far as the information, what information is accurate. That's my play.
The information was conveyed to me in a second phone call. Initially, we had talked, and he says there's a company in there assessing everything, and that it was a kind of a 30 units, and it was a big job, and they were getting along. He said he was going to hear something between 7 and 8 o'clock. He had called me back a second time, and he said he had got some information that it's just, the work is just, there's too much work to do in one night. So there will not be school tomorrow. The superintendent will make that announcement to the regular proper channels as they make it, to the phone and however else they get it out there. That was the last conversation I had with him.
Okay.
All right.
And that would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
My
He
recommendation.
probably, yeah, all right. So he had talked to me, and that was the situation. It was just, it's too much work, too much, oversight that has to be done. They want to take their time on it. They want to do it properly, and, they'll make the assessment as the day goes on. But there will not be school tomorrow, and that'll be notified to the channels that have properly notified through the superintendent's office.
Okay, if I could, just on, and this is, I think that Councilor Conway and Councilor Cirillo touched on this, but, and probably Councilor Leahy, but we are about to spend a large amount of money on the high school, like $350 million. However, the school's got to operate in the meantime. Without having gas leaks and water leaks and all of the other problems, no heat in the building and everything else that we've experienced over this past winter. So there needs to be a plan, and I had a discussion on the phone with the city manager about this today. Not city manager Gary, but the next city manager. Because I do think that what we need to do is just take a look at, it has to be that in September, the parents of students feel comfortable in sending their kids to the school. Feel that they have to feel like there's not gonna be any gas leaks, like they're not gonna, they don't have to bring an umbrella to school, and also that they don't have to wear a coat to school. So they have to know that there's gonna be heat and everything's gonna be in working order. And in order to do that, we're going to have to spend an amount of money, probably beyond the $1.2 million that this city council voted to spend on the new roof for the 22 building. But that's a decision that's got to be made quickly. It's just, we can't have it be that the councils are getting calls every other week about that school, about some other problem going on. And if there's 2 helicopters flying around the city, that's because one of the teachers at the high school called up the news stations to have the helicopters fly around the city, which is, you know, that's a bad thing as well. But I do think that this is something that we have to address with the high school really quickly, and have it be that whatever needs to be done in terms of repairs or whatever, that will last for the whole school year, be done for September, when that school opens up in September. And I can't think of much more that's more eminently important than that. It's got to be done really quick. Thank you.
You know, I was going to ask for the finance committees of both school committee and the city council to meet to talk over funding, but perhaps both facility groups should, maybe you can make that into a motion, have the facility subcommittees meet in both school departments.
Well, I think that's a good idea, Mr. Mayor, but I also think that probably the first step is to do an assessment of just what needs to be done there, and how extensive are the repairs that need to be done there. Once, you know, and most of it would be done, I guess, when the school is closed, but before the finance committee.
But I think we need dialogue, that's my point.
If I could finish, before the finance committee meets, we need to have an idea of just how much money we're talking about in the first place. Thanks.
Councilman Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me begin by saying that I have, and I'm sure my colleagues do, have the utmost confidence in the Public Safety Department, the fire chief, and Mr. Underwood, and I don't believe for a minute that they would have put our children in harm's way and having to come back into the building. My question has to do with, and picking up on Councilor Cirillo's comment about having a plan in place. And I think we've actually set aside or signed a contract for $25,000 to actually start looking at some of our public buildings. But even some of these new schools that were built 20 years ago had problems the first heating season, as we all know. So my question has to do with, to Mr. Underwood, from the standpoint of your technicians and your licensed employees, are you in the same place you were, say, 10 years ago, or has retirement actually taken some of these technicians out of the department? And to follow up, if I could, every time we seem to get an email about the status of a project, we always read ordered parts, waiting for parts. So I don't know if there's a way from an inventory control standpoint that we can, you know, this summer, order the parts, you know, for the heating season coming up in November, just to make sure they were not waiting for parts. And again, FW Webb is right down the street. I don't know why we'd be waiting for parts anyway. But again, at the end of the day, I do have the utmost confidence that I think what my colleagues do in public safety. And if my grandchildren were there, even if they got called back in, I would feel that they were not being put in harm's way. So again, if I could, from Mr. Underwood, from the standpoint of the technicians that we have on staff and an inventory control plan, what's the thought there?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say all of the technicians are DPW employees, not school employees. So I don't know how much leeway I should be commenting on other people's, but what I will say is much of our workforce in the school department and in the DPW, they're getting older. The new boilers and the new equipment that we're getting, they're more sophisticated. We do very little, if any, re-education courses for our HVAC, our plumbers, or et cetera. And that's, that may not be specific to the high school because much of those parts are as old as some of our employees. But the newer schools that we're putting boilers in these controls issues and so on, so they're like any other technical job. You have to go to re-education courses and learn these things. So I, on top of the fact that we may have the same numbers, our workforce is getting older. We'd all like to think we can work as hard as we could 20 years ago. It may not be the case. So the numbers are there. There's other components.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick follow-up. When we do the gas test, Chief, do we also do the carbon monoxide testing as well?
Yeah.
We do.
We did a carbon monoxide. We also, as a safety precaution, we put a couple of carbon monoxide detectors in the gymnasium, just as a safety precaution, that were not there prior to Friday.
Okay.
And we did check the gym and the pool area both on Friday and today for carbon monoxide. We didn't find any carbon monoxide readings.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
If I
Mayor.
could add just one more thing, I'm sorry. Head of school, Mary Ann Bustine, did want to be here today, and we were at the high school right before I left. She was doing some emails and some conversation and stuff. I suggested to her that I would come here. She wanted to come. That was, she's not here not my request, my recommendation. I thought I was adequate to answer the questions for everybody, so she did want to be here. So I didn't want anyone to think that, she was.
And for the record, the superintendent offered to have her here. I said it wasn't necessary, knowing that you and the chief were coming and knowing what had happened. Councilor, no?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reality is that our city building and school building are old, a lot of them. Of course, these things happen. I do agree that we need to have a plan, but we need to also fund that plan. Just having a plan and not willing to fund it doesn't do you any good. This thing will continue to happen. My questions to Mr. Underwood is that, was proper step been taken to make sure or to ensure that student safety in place in both league, the Friday league and this morning league, sir?
In my opinion, absolutely.
The fire chief, would you give your opinion, sir?
Yes, Counselor, it was. We evacuated the school on both days. We shut down the gas coming into the building. We turned on the ventilation system on the roof of the gym, and we took more readings. We found there was 0 readings before we let the kids back in, and we did not let them into the gym area or the pool area, both Friday and today. We put them in the 1980 building and the 1922 building. So there was never any danger for any of the students.
So it was correct that the evacuation is to the Sonkers Arena, but when they come back to the building, the gas has already been shut off.
Yes, that was the case both Friday and today.
Right. So this comprehensive inspection going on now, how sure are we that we will uncover any future leak?
So what we had done Friday that was different than what we're doing today is we had the gas company come in with their gas meters, and we did a check of everything in the vicinity that we were smelling gas, which was the gymnasium, and then we went down to the first floor, we went to the pool rooms, but what we didn't do is we didn't go to the rooftop that was in a different section of the building. We didn't go to, we really concentrated on the area that we could smell gas. The gas company identified 4 different areas, and that's what we focused on. Again, in hindsight, should we have checked more? Well, I guess we should have, but we checked what we thought, and there was the opinion of everybody that was there that day that this is where we're going to focus on, this is what we're going to do. We identified what we thought was the problem, and that's how we handled it.
So the decision not to have school tomorrow certainly is going to give you more time to really go into in-depth to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again, right?
That's correct. This time we've shut off we shut off the gas to everything the other day also, but we didn't go in. Once we got the gas cock fixed and the leak was stopped, we went back to those units, we turned them back on, and everything was as normal. We checked the vicinity that we knew where the leak was, there was no detection. This time, we're going a little bit further. As a safety precaution, we're shutting down every machine, but we're also going into every single machine, one by one, turning the gas onto that unit, checking every gas cock, every valve, everything that has to do with that gas unit before we get to the next one.
Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Underwood.
May I just add one?
Excuse me, Councilor. Elliot, Councilor, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think most of the questions were asked. However, I appreciate Mr. Underwood you coming and answering all the questions, but I have to concur with Council Leahy. She's a headmaster of one of the largest high schools in the state. And this isn't just a mold problem or, the roof leaking. I think it's significant, and Mr. Mayor, as we all got that message from Mr. McGovern or Acting City Manager last week, we immediately asked for a report, which you put on the agenda, and I appreciate that. But I do think it's the responsibility of the superintendent and the headmaster to be here tonight to answer questions about evacuation because parents, I don't think it was handled properly at all whatsoever. And you know, it's easy to point the finger, and I'm not doing that. What I'm trying to do is, it happened again, and I don't think parents have little confidence in what's going over there, considering all the issues have taken place. And we've spent millions, and it's not excuse. We've not spent enough to make sure that we haven't, but we did a 2012 bond order. We spend hundreds of thousands every year, and it's not enough considering this is taking place. Have we, you know, this is an emergency situation. I think we should contact the school building authority. This is something that they can reimburse. In the meantime, because we're going to have to spend a lot of money, they're going to have to fix it anyway. So I think that's the first thing that we can do. First and foremost, and secondly, we have to notify DCAM regarding this building, I presume. Is that correct, Mr. McGovern? To add and validate the fact that this is an emergency situation and we need money to do that. So I think that's just a funding issue, but I do think to let parents know, if this were me, if I were the headmaster, I would be here understanding that this is a significant issue and we need to ensure to let parents know. We need to show them confidence, instill confidence that we're taking this, you know, it happened twice. So people are they're upset, they're concerned, kids are losing, you know, time in school with everything else that's going on. So we have to solve the problem. I completely agree, but I thought getting a report, you know, the parties, the responsible people making decisions over there. My understanding is the headmaster can only order the evacuation or can call them back in. Is that correct?
They have complete charge.
Okay. Well,
over the chief and everybody, the superintendent and everybody else.
All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Leahy.
I just wanted to add that, you know, we all made good points. I'm glad the chief and Mr. Underwood are here, but the superintendent of the school should have been here, and we probably should have asked the headmaster of the school to be here. The thing that gets me is I got 8 emails telling me that, or text messages telling me that there's no school tomorrow. Now, why aren't we the first ones to know that there isn't school? We got 3 different times. We got all these text messages. That's what the part of the problem is. So that's what needs to be fixed tomorrow. When there's a no school decision made, it needs to go either to the manager, to the mayor, to the council, to the school committee, not out to a Connect Ed. And that's part of the problem. I got one text message saying it went out at 7:04. So that's part of the problem too. So we need to know, you know, before other people.
All right, you all set? Councilor Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the facilities director, Mr. Underwood, is here, please let me just say one last thing, and I'll hold my breath here. But parents are telling me that the Latin room on the 2nd floor is leaking pretty bad. Can you check that out for me?
I absolutely
Thank you.
will. You wouldn't happen to have a room number on that, do you?
I don't have it,
The
no.
Latin room?
Latin room on the 2nd floor.
I'll look into it.
Thank you.
Okay. For the record, you know, the several issues that have been raised. But the thing is, I did tell the superintendent that I didn't feel he'd have to be present tonight. He offered to have the high school principal. I had talked with her. I believe she handled herself reasonably well in the 2 situations. The children are always safe, and she placed them out of harm's way because the fire chief was there, Mr. Underwood was there, but the assistant city manager was there, the city manager, acting city manager, the assistant city manager was there, and I felt that they could provide us with enough information. Regarding the no school, the superintendent, Mr. Leahy, said, I'll give the notice at 8 o'clock. So it's not yet 8 o'clock.
I know, we're getting messages.
No, I understand, but he made it earlier because I don't say it's a problem, because obviously.
The problem to me, when we're in charge with the funds and we don't know what's going on, it's a
No,
problem.
we know what's going on, but he would provide it as soon as possible. But we're in a session, and we're going to get that information. So, I mean, it's I'll take the blame. I told them it was not necessary for them to come. I did not think it would become this extensive because I have trust in the fire chief and I trust in the acting city manager. They were there, their leadership was there, they participated in the process, and they could give us all of the necessary information. The information that was left out was the decision that can only be made by the superintendent as to what the school would be tomorrow. The one thing he said to me, he was not going to open school, and possibly, not that there would be, there may not be any more problems, but if a problem popped up, he just did not want to dismiss school again. He said that would be futile. And so he took that stance. And we were going to get that information before this meeting closed. I mean, did we get it right at the moment? I suppose I could have said, call me immediately. I apologize for that. Any further questions? Yes, Councilor Elliott.
Can I please make a motion that the new city manager reach out to the school building authority and see if they'll approve funding to fix this? It's going to have to be done anyway, so if we can get reimbursement on it, it makes sense for us to see if we can do that now.
I need a second. Second by Councilor Mercia.
I can assure you that Manager Donahue will be assessed to the situation when I swear her in tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right, you got that, Councilor? Second. All right, I need a motion to accept and place on file this report.
Can we have a vote on my motion, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, we did, oh,
Oh, a
you
roll
want to
call?
vote?
There is
You
a-
want a roll call? I second it.
There is a meeting temporarily scheduled for May 2nd.
So, do you want a roll call?
I
on
got
No,
an email
as
about
long as it was passed, that's fine.
was
Sorry,
passed,
Mr. Mayor.
yeah.
That's fine. Sorry.
All right, just so we know, to May 2nd at 5:30 in the chambers.
I need a motion to accept and this discussion, a motion to accept and place on file
So moved.
by Councilor Mercia.
Seconded.
Second by Councilor Cirillo. Thank you.
Thank you.
That kept us busy. No, it's an important issue, and a lot of salient points were brought up, but I think it's time to discuss this in a very serious manner. With that said, I need the minutes of the zoning subcommittee, April 3rd, and the city council meeting, April 3rd, for acceptance. I need a motion to accept and place on file by Mr. Milanazzo, seconded by Mr. Nunn, Councilor Nunn. All right, we now have communications from the city manager. Motion responses, front porches.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I would ask that motion response A be referred to the zoning subcommittee for further review.
I second it.
say that again. Motion, which ones?
A,
A? All right. And seconded by Councilor Noon.
Well,
for further review.
Councilor Cirillo wants to raise an issue. Councilor Cirillo?
no,
All set?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Next is,
Wait.
okay.
The motion was made and seconded. I'd like to speak to it. What are we going to further review? Because the report recommends that Development Services believes that the current zoning strikes the proper balance between porches encroaching in residential neighborhoods and establishing appropriate front setbacks to the neighborhood character. So the zoning is in place, and if residents want to go and put a porch on, they get a variance.
Yeah, what's
So
the...
I'm not sure exactly what we're looking to do here. We get a report from Development Services, the motion was made, and the recommendation is not to proceed with, that the existing zoning is in place, so.
All right.
Are we,
Councilor Mercia?
are we looking to change the rules here to suffice
just
some
being sent to
people?
a
I don't
subcommittee.
understand what's before us. Why do we need further discussion to send it to a subcommittee when it's already sufficient enough is what the response was? Did we not get the answer that we were looking for? I don't understand this.
Well, Councilor Kennedy asked for this. Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This issue went directly to the city manager or to the city manager's department for recommendation. It's never been before a subcommittee. I spoke to the chairman of the subcommittee, and I serve on the subcommittee. And the subcommittee won't meet on this unless there's a proposal, unless somebody comes forward with a proposal. So there's no harm, no foul on doing this. I don't really understand why there would be any objection to sending it to the subcommittee. If there's no proposal to do this, then the subcommittee will never end up meeting on this. But there certainly isn't any harm to be done by sending it to the subcommittee.
Councilor Elliott?
Well,
Councilor
what concerns me is in the language itself. If we don't want to read the report, then let's not ask for it. But it's very specific. Development Services has been very vigilant with porches and setbacks to prevent private property owners from enclosing these porches in the structure. While easing the limitations on porches may result in a small number of additional porches being constructed, it would provide greater opportunity for property owners to illegally enclose those porches and push the structures closer to the property lines. Then why have a zoning ordinance in place? We have it in place. I think it makes sense to it would make sense to look at it, but it requires a variance, and we have a recommendation from the city saying it might result in a couple of porches, but it's going to create a bigger problem. So I don't support looking at it any further. I think if homeowners want to put a porch on, there is a process in place. There's a zoning ordinance that we work tirelessly on, and we do make amendments. So I'm all for, helping people if they want to put a porch on, but there's a process in place, and this says if we do this, it's going to create a bigger problem. That's my only point. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I believe Councilor Leahy had his hand, and Councilor.
I just agree. I think we got a decision. There's no obstructions. If you want to put a porch on legally and you can afford it, then you can put one on. I mean, we just said tonight, we got to set priorities here. Are we going to fix the schools, or are we going to, this is a good motion, but it's done with. So why are we going to have another meeting on this when we should be working on the schools?
Mr. Mayor.
No, Councilor Mercy has the floor.
Well, we have the Eric Slagle here. Why don't he give his opinion to what we're talking about, because it's only going to go to him anyway. Did you prepare this report, Mr. Slagle?
Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. Councilor Mercer, yes, I did.
So wouldn't you think this is sufficient, or what?
We had several conversations about it, and as the report stated, while we understand the desire to make it easier for folks to put on porches,
But we have rules, don't we have rules?
Yeah, we think that what's in place strikes the right balance.
Okay, that's all I want to know, and I don't support any further.
Councilor Kennedy and Councilor Noon.
I just asked for a roll call. I don't really understand any of the resistance to this. There's no harm in discussing it. Most of the people that have spoken against it don't serve on the subcommittee. And so I would just ask for a roll call on it, up or down.
Okay, roll call.
Councilor Mercia?
No.
Councilor?
Yeah, I just want to follow up. We asked for the report, and I don't want to beat this to death, but there's nothing more to discuss. We have a recommendation from the city. If we don't like it, then, then vote against it. But to just continue to discuss this, to put something in place, why? I don't understand. If you don't understand the zoning code, then that makes sense. But I think it's very clear what Mr. Slagle and Development Services explained. And the recommendation is it's going to create more of a problem. So if we want to create more of a problem, okay, then let's look into this. But I just want to make it clear to the people watching that there's something in place. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think sending this to a zoning subcommittee will create a problem. In fact, it's giving opportunity for people at home, those who want to be heard, to come to the zoning subcommittee to give their input. Whether they like it or not, they can then give their input, pro or against. My question is to Eric. Do you have any issue to have this sent to the zoning subcommittee, to have the zoning subcommittee looked at it?
Respectfully, Councilor, I don't think that's my place. The council decides.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right, thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I could, I just would point out that I believe it was at last week's meeting that there was an issue having to do with parking fees that was sent to the Finance Committee and came back to this council and was sent back to the Finance Committee for a second time. This is just to talk about front porches and whether there's an easier way to allow people to put front porches on. If there isn't, then it won't go anywhere else. But I don't really understand at all any of the resistance to this. It's a pretty simple thing. And once again, I don't think that the zoning subcommittee will meet on this unless there's a proposal to come up with an easier way. So it's really just a motion to sort of keep it alive in the zoning subcommittee for a little while longer.
All right, for clarity, I want a roll call. Councilor.
Thank you.
Mr. Les.
This is the way I see it. We asked for a report. We got a report from the man that knows what he's talking about. Because it didn't fit into our agenda of what we wanted to hear, we're now going to bring it back. And because we don't serve on that zoning subcommittee, we don't have an opinion. I don't serve on that zoning subcommittee, but I do have an opinion. You're wasting time because you want to circumvent the law to make it appeal to what you want it to be. And that's not the way this council should be run. Sticking up for people that can't defend themselves. I don't know if you're a lawyer or what you are, but...
Okay, all right.
Move the question.
Okay, move the question. Roll call.
What is the question?
Read the question.
The motion is by Councilor Kennedy to refer the matter to the zoning subcommittee for further review, seconded by Councilor Nunn.
No.
No?
Councilor Mercia?
No.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes?
Councilor Cirillo?
Yes.
Councilor Conway?
No.
Councilor Elliott?
No.
Councilor Kennedy?
Yes.
And Councilor Leahy?
No.
5-4. 5-4. Motion passes.
Motion passes, thank you. All right, next, UTEC mattress recycling facility. Councilor Noon?
I would like to commend Director Trad for working with UTEC and to try to find a facility in Lowell for UTEC. This is a great group of young people who actually, try to make their living, basically. UTEC have hired so many people for this mattress recycling. And I think, they house now in Lawrence and they want to expand in Lowell. So I know that over the past couple of years, DPD, led by Director Trad, and tried to assist them. So I urge the director to continue the effort and to try to find a home for them here in Lowell as well, because they actually serve, I believe it's 17 city and town in the state. So I thank you.
Any more deliberation on that? Okay. Facilities assessment study. That's Councilor Noon also? No, Councilor Kennedy, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Wasn't yours the facility assessment study?
Yeah, but I don't have any, I've got no comment to make.
You all set? Councilor Cirillo?
Yeah. With regards to the maintenance master plan, is that what we're talking about?
Facilities assessment study.
Right. I did have, because I was looking at this, and I saw, and thank you for the report, by the way, thank you. I was looking at it, and I saw site analysis input, existing facilities report, code issues, program recommendations. But again, I was actually hoping to see a schedule of maintenance in here as far as one of the line items.
If I could, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a response to a motion that Mr. McGovern has been involved with quite extensively. I'll let him go over that with
Thank
you
you.
now, and then we'll hear from Mr. Baldwin in terms of the steps that are going to go ahead. It kind of dovetails into an early discussion we had.
Okay,
And,
all right, thank you.
That's
Thank
all
you.
right, Council.
Thank you. So
Okay.
through you, Mr. Mayor, the report details the steps that have been taken up until this point to solicit bids for a report that will speak to a lot of the desires of the council as it relates to the stock of municipal facilities in the city. So an RFP was issued in the beginning of March for a study that will be put together to detail out a preventative maintenance schedule for each building. We'll analyze each facility, prioritize necessary capital repairs, and put together a comprehensive 10-year plan for necessary work for each of those facilities. We've been able to identify existing funding to pay for the work itself. It's scheduled, the report, is scheduled to be complete by the end of this summer. That was put into the RFP. We received 5 bids from companies on the RFP, and a selection, review committee rather, was put together to review those. They're currently under review. We expect that from the committee a recommendation will be made to the city manager for the bid that is the most responsive, at which time a report will begin forthwith, and then the report will be delivered to the council sometime towards the end of the summer and the beginning of the fall. And then at that time, it will have for each building a comprehensive checklist for each building on preventative maintenance that will be needed and adhered to for each facility.
Councilor Elliott?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to follow up because there is a recommendation for preventive maintenance, item number 6. So we have 5 proposals. Any idea when, because we just talked about the high school and all the other facilities is going to be included in this assessment report, which is a significant step. We bid it, we got the proposals back, we actually got 5 respondents. I think that's important, and it's going to detail all of the existing facilities, the conditions, and quite frankly, what needs to be done, what needs to be fixed, which is what we need. And then it's time for us to make the decisions and the priorities. And this, what are we going to fund here? And it's going to be a big dollar figure versus, other things that we're not going to be able to, the wish list. So I think this is important, as we just completed a nervous discussion about what's going on at the high school, and we'll be getting this back, and it'll be an eye-opener, but at least we're moving forward as we discussed on this. So anything else that we should be looking for? In the next, you hope to get a recommendation back in 2 weeks, and I guess my question is, when do they get going? We're talking about, we have the summer, there should be some initial assessment, we hope, to make sure that this doesn't happen at the high school. What's the plan, I suppose, after, we accept the bidder?
So the committee right now, there's 6 members. The new DPW director, Mr. Donison, he's serving on the review committee. You have Jim Green, Lands and Buildings, Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Underwood, Mr. Frisch, the school building, the school department, the business administrator, Sean Shanahan, the building commissioner, and I'll also be sitting on the review committee. We just received the packets. We're in the process of reviewing those. Probably in the next week, the group will be getting together and going over the scoring. And then once it's awarded, the company will get going as soon as possible. And it will be a comprehensive study of not just the school buildings, but all of the municipal buildings. So you're talking somewhere around 60 buildings that will be assessed.
Okay, so I think that's good, and the timing is good with the new city manager coming in. I think the important aspect of this moving forward, there is a long-range plan, including as part of the objective, but also we're going to have a database, and it'll be a living database that we need to continue to update as things are fixed and as other problems arise with our buildings, and we'll be able to factor that into a plan, which is what the motions were all about. Let's get ahead of this, and we know it's not going to, be easy and won't happen overnight.
So we did that, and this has been evolving here for the past couple of years. It started approximately 2 years ago with the building inspectors going through most of the schools, all the schools, I should say, prior to the opening of the schools in August and everything, and coming up with a comprehensive list of really the life safety issues that needed to be addressed. And so at that time, we ended up getting a committee together, both city side and school side employees, and entering all of those life safety issues into a database and meeting on a monthly basis and going school by school and rectifying those. Unfortunately, as kind of Mr. Underwood pointed to, that most of these, all of us call the new school, the McAuliffe the new school, or this other school the new school. Well, those schools are 25 years old at this point. and there are a lot of issues. And so this will give us a blueprint, and approximately back in December, the former manager called a group together, once again, a number of department heads and employees here in the city, to see if we could do this internally. But after meeting, I think it was a couple times we ended up meeting, and it was just, it's apparent that it's just, the magnitude is just too large. The amount of time that it would take for city employees to go through and properly identify everything as what this company, we're asking a company to do, it just wasn't feasible. So therefore, that's why we decided to go the route of the RFP. And once this database is developed, it will then allow us to, as Mr. Baldwin said, start taking those priorities, the priorities that this company will identify and saying, you know, the first thing you need to fix is the roof at the Robinson, and go right down the line and figure out how we can fund it over the next 10 years. And working with the school department also, that, you know, the MSBA, as we all know, we're in the middle of an MSBA project right now, but that doesn't preclude us from being able to apply for the renovation category, you know, for any type of roof work. So any of those roofs that need to be repaired, we'll actually work with the school department, that in theory, we should be putting in an MSBA request every year for every school, for every roof that needs to be repaired. And so that will allow us to be able to do that, having that blueprint, that database.
Okay, I know there's a lot of other questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me ask one more question. So my concern only is this report's not going to be done until August of this year. What can we gather information-wise to start working on some priorities that perhaps DPW already knows? I mean, is there a preliminary report that'll come out and say, look, you're going to start doing ABC at the high school?
Mr. Manager, you said you wanted to say something?
So one of the immediate deliverables for the report will be the site analysis. We send whoever the winning bidder is after they're scored by the review committee the list of all the city assets. They begin to go one by one and analyze them on all of the aspects of the building envelope and the mechanical systems. As we receive the information in, we'll try to incorporate whatever's available into the capital plan for this coming year to try to attack as many of the immediate needs as we can before that full report is delivered to the city in August.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Mayor.
I think, you know, Mr. McGovern had stated that it just wasn't, we didn't have the resources to do this type of study. This is a comprehensive study, and I think we've got to understand our needs before we can plan in terms of long-term planning and you know, the maintenance of effort. So we got to understand our needs. This company will outline those needs, and it'll give us an ability, because you know, we all sit here, we know that we have to throw some resources at it so we can understand what the needs are, and the plan is, it's a little easier to allocate those resources. So I think it's a good step forward, and I think the preliminary information will be helpful to the council as well.
Mr. Conway first, then Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, just a quick question through you to Mr. McGovern. The new, what we call the new buildings, the 25, 30-year-old one, is it primarily the heating systems are in big trouble and the roofs? Are those the two major problems that we're looking at in those schools? I know it's, you know, I'm not asking for all the detail or whatever, because I know that even though the Riley School wasn't included in that, we had a problem there back a few years ago. We had to bring in portable heaters. Is it basically the roofs and the...
From my experience of the calls that we receive, in a lot of these situations that end up happening, it's definitely the heating, cooling, and leaks. That's what we really get a lot of phone calls about. So.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is my motion, but since the report is not going to be available until after August 30th, we really can't have a meaningful discussion until after August 30th. However, that's right before school starts. And my remarks a little bit earlier when we were talking about the high school, we need to come up with a short term, that's got to be aside from this. and that's gotta be done quicker than this. We need to come up with a short-term plan for the high school to keep the high school going for next year. We can't wait till August 30th to be told, all right, you gotta do these things, and then that's too late. We need to do that quicker, and we need to do it in a prudent way that's gonna pay attention to how much money we're willing to spend or invest in that school over the short term, given that we're gonna be doing a substantial construction on that facility starting, sometime next year or the year after. So I don't think it's enough that we're waiting until August 30th to do this. We need to separate the high school, I think, out of that and just do a short-term assessment on exactly what we need to be doing for that high school so that it's in working order in September and so that we're not getting calls all the time about different little problems that go on there. Don't you agree with that, Mr.
Absolutely, Counselor. And I think back in, if it was December or January, I can't remember, when we had a lot of the heating issues over at the high school, I think there was a decision made by the city manager of coming up with a plan of utilizing outside resources and complementing and supplementing our DPW. For example, over in the old building, the 22 building, we brought in Boston Mechanical to work on those systems and train who was the manufacturer of the rooftop units over in the 80s complex. And I think moving forward that there was in the past, and I'm sure that probably continuing moving forward here, you'll have that same thought process of using outside sources to help supplement and complement the DPW to make sure that not only with the coming into the AC season, the cooling season, but then also that, walking into next fall, that the heating issues, we can hopefully curtail those.
Thank you.
All set. Thanks. Councilor Leahy?
Could I just add too, we have the experience of, through you to the manager, like a Mr. Belgard, he could give us a quick list of quick repairs so we don't have to wait till August, So I understand what we're doing with the reaching out and doing the assessment and everything. There's a lot of writing to the reports, but a person like Mr. Belgard could walk through a school and prioritize things quickly for us. And if we have to make a short list for this coming summer, he's the guy to do it probably, so, or even Mr. Underwood, they have the knowledge of what needs to be done and prioritizing it. So we should look at that resource too.
Any further discussion? Okay. Thank you. Next, boards and commissions. Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Manager Gary for the report and also for update the website. It's awesome. We have 25 board and commission in our city. I think I would urge that we, reach out to through the nonprofit that exists in the city of Lowell. We have dozen of nonprofit in the city of Lowell. Reach out to them, and when we have vacancy, to get qualified individual who would like to volunteer, on board and commission in the city of Lowell. So that way, they can be a part of the city and be a contributor to the city of Lowell. So I would venture that direction, is that reach out to them when we have vacancy in board and commission. That way we can really diversify and use our diversity as our strength in terms of diverse input to the city of Lowell. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Just quickly, those are updated periodically, the boards and commission. There was one, I got a call from Jerry Frechette, who's a planning board member, that he wasn't included in an update, but he is on there, and like I said, that'll be updated.
Any further discussion? Spring cleaning update and summer jobs. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. So thank you for the report. I was looking for just a little bit more information too. Last night at the Highlands neighborhood meeting, they were asking about the parks, and I know some parks, we have part-time employees that go around, empty the barrels out, pick up the garbage, keep an eye on the park. So I'd like to just get a little bit more information on that, if we can afford to have a part-time person at every park or the major parks like Hadley Park. And then I just want a little more information on, are we gonna paint the fire hydrants, the bottoms of the lamp posts downtown? Are we gonna mulch around the trees? Are we gonna speak to the people who empty the trash bins and clean out the trash under the recycling, the receptacle in the metal frame? Those are the things that need to be done. I think we're doing a good job with the vacuum. They get the street sweepers out, so that's looking good. Merrimack Street looked really good this weekend. They did a great job having it all swept up. But that's what I was just looking for, just to make sure we keep kids busy this summer doing that stuff. We should make sure that everything's fixed on the lamp posts and paint them
I have
up and
Mr.
stuff like
Donaldson
that.
here from the DPW. He can address some of the issues that we're going through currently, and I think he's going to address some issues about the picking up the tree limbs that from the
Oh, okay, thank
top
you.
march we had,
Yep.
so he can address that. In terms of, if I just may, in terms of taping on temporary help, that's a process that's happening now, and there's funding available for that as well.
Okay, thank you.
I'll start with the tree limbs. So what we have is the next 2 Saturdays or 3 Saturdays, we're going to make the park or the 6 locations throughout the city available for drop-off locations. So typically we have Monday to Friday, we have on a bi-weekly basis, people can put their, they can either put bundles of the tree limbs, as long as they're 3 feet or less and 3 inches in diameter or less, and as long as they're bundled, our waste management crews will pick up that material as well as anything that's bagged. If they have over 10 bags, what we're requesting that they do is they make a request to DPW, and we will pick them up throughout the city on a Saturday. So that should help with individuals who have more than 10 bags of debris that they have in their yard. So that'll help with some of that type of trash pickup. As far as the cleaning up some of the streets and sweeping them, we do have tonight, for example, on Middlesex Street, we're going to bag one side of the street so that no vehicles will park on that side of the street, so we'll be able to pick up any of the debris. And then tomorrow night, we'll bag the other side of the street, so then on Thursday morning, first thing, so that no cars are parked there, we can clean that side of the street. An interesting fact that today we walked around the neighborhood on Middlesex Street, and we talked to some of the property owners, and as part of the ordinance, it's the requirement of the property owner to clean the sidewalk, including 3 feet out into the curb line, whether or not all of them know that. And we're also going to be contacting, there's 3 empty lots on that street that have a lot of trash on them. So we've contacted them. One is National Grid, and they've made a commitment to go to their property and clean some of the trash, as well as there's a couple other properties we have to get a hold of the property owners.
Okay, and then just one other thing. So I know you're getting acclimated to the city. Just for example, Colley Stadium, where we have a lot of high school use, do you have a, we gotta get the potholes fixed and we gotta get the shrubbery picked up or shredded there? Do you have a time schedule for that?
You mean the drop-off locations or just
Yeah,
cleaning up
well, the
parks?
drop-off location, it's the debris is really coming into the parking lot, and then we usually have to do fill the potholes, because that parking lot gets beat up pretty good every winter, so, and we're right in the season now with lacrosse and track
Yep.
and all that, so.
Sure, we'll take a look at the potholes and at the various parks, as well as we do have a couple more weeks of drop-off for people to bring their debris to the 6 locations throughout the city, including Colley. And right now, we're moving as fast as we can with chipping the debris, and we have some dumpster units that we're under contract to haul it off-site.
Okay, but do we have, how many chippers do we have? Like, are we gonna have one every Saturday at a different location, a couple, or 2 or 3?
I don't know the answer to the question. I'll have to
Okay.
find that out and get back to
Okay.
the city manager.
Thank you.
Councilman Milazzo?
Just quickly, thank you for the report. I was told over the last couple of days that some of our commercial landscape companies who are getting started again, now that the weather's getting better, they're dumping at our sites, at our 6 sites. And I don't think that was the intention. So again, if we're going to be open for another 2 or 3 weeks, I just want to alert, at least in my opinion, alert the department heads that that could be an issue.
Yes,
If we have
that is
commercial-
correct. The intent is for the commercial haulers not to go to those 6
Right.
parks and drop it off. We don't monitor it, we don't police it.
Correct.
So whether it's happening, I don't know, but
Yeah, it's
I've
my,
heard-
it's my
I've heard
understanding
rumor.
it's just started to happen because the lawnmowers and they're cleaning up private yards and dumping it in one of our 6 locations. So it could be an issue over the next 3 weeks.
Mr. Manager?
Yes, if I may, I'd like to have, when the discussion's done, I'd like to have Mr. Fadakani come up and talk about the summer jobs program as well after this discussion, because that was part of the request too in terms of summer jobs.
Councilor Elliott?
Can we stick on trees for a second?
Yes.
So I know that we're going to do this for another couple of weeks. I think it's important while people do get out and they're starting to clean their yards and they need a place to put it. But I can just tell you from Edward Street, the parking lot was pretty much full, which is good. It's cleaned up now. But I think it's opening season, and at least with soccer and probably many of these other parks. And I can tell you that parking lot is going to be full. So we need a place to put it, but that parking lot's not going to be available, or we're going to have people, I mean, we're talking hundreds of cars. There'll be 2,000 people at that field all day Saturday, and there's limited parking to begin with. So I just want to alert you that, I mean, I know it's going to be clean, but I don't know if that's going to be the case with other parks if it's opening day, so.
Yes.
And
we're aware
I
of
know
that.
it's not an easy solution, but.
Right, it's not an easy solution. We're aware of it, and we will
Okay.
clean up the parks, although during that particular day, it's still a designated drop-off
Right.
location, so.
Exactly,
Right.
people are going to be looking for a place to park, and there's going to be putting
Right.
branches everywhere. It's just, that one's not going to work. I don't know,
Well
maybe we
said.
can, is it the Regatta or some other locations where, in any event.
We will take a look at it.
Reevaluate it, yeah.
Yeah.
All set?
One quick question. Someone asked me to ask, is there any state money available for this? Like, because it's storm-related, you can't? Okay. I thought they thought that there may have been money for that. No? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Fadakani, if you would.
Good evening. From the Recreation Office, and we are starting the hiring process for summer jobs for the youth. We're hoping to hire about 192 kids this summer, which is a little bit higher from last year. Last year, we had about 1,800 kids enrolled in programming citywide between camps and swim lessons and various other programs. So we are starting the process now. We have applications on our website as well as at the high schools and in our office. We've already received approximately 240 applications, not counting the ones that came in this afternoon after school got out. And like I said, we're going to hire about 192. We're hoping to get about 115 to 120 returning kids from last year and filling in the rest with new applicants. So when they apply, we'll schedule them for interviews, have them come in, talk to us about 15 minutes for each applicant, and see who would fit in with what we do and who's interested in working for us.
Any further discussion? Thank you. As I stated, I have a quick report from the superintendent of schools. Would you care if I read that to give you the information? Okay. At 8:15, good evening. The crews working on the gas leak informed us that they will need to continue working on the problem through tomorrow. Consequently, we'll be closing Lowell High School tomorrow. The actual day will not have to be made up since the closure occurs after April 1st. We will keep you informed tomorrow as to what the repair crews will tell us at that particular point. All right? So that's officially at 8:15. Thank you. Next is Phoenix Ave, paving list. Councilor Mercia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought that was Phoenix Ave, but it leads into Phoenix Ave. From the explanation that we got, that the state took the land to construct Research Drive, and although it appears that they intended to deed it back to the city, the dedication to the city did not occur, so there was no particular marriage there. So the engineer division does not have any documentation that the state deeding Research Drive to the city or that the city ever accepted that. So the DPW Engineering Division will contact the state requesting that they initiate this process. So that's a good thing, and it's a little bit of a long wait, but if we could have that continue where DPW, the Engineering Division, does try to get some help, if we could contact our state representatives too and see if they could hurry that along, because the reason I say this is because when I went into Hannaford, the people that work there say that they come in that way to take a right onto, it's off of Rogers Street, to take a right onto that, to go to Hannaford, to go to work. And then people go to McDonald's and they go through that area of roadway and it's very bumpy. On the other side of the street is Lannon Chevrolet, so we get a picture of where I'm talking about. But if you go further down, as I did today, to ask the establishment, what is the exact street address here? Because although it looks like it's Phoenix Avenue, which goes around in like a horseshoe, a semicircle, that is considered Research Drive, just as this response states. But I will tell you that if you go a little further down, there's this building there, and their address is actually 847 Rogers Street, even though they're off of Rogers Street because of that situation where it wasn't deeded properly or carried over to the city. But that's a kidney dialysis place. Imagine you're suffering with kidney trouble and you're going for dialysis and you're going over this bumpy road to go there. That's not the way people should have to be treated, you know? So if we could kind of work that in to make their life a little bit easier. The place was packed with people seeking dialysis treatment. This is a long entranceway into that building, and it's on a street. Because it's not ours, somebody should be responsible to fix it. And if the state would do it, I doubt it. They want to, if they hesitate to deed it to the city, then ask them if they'll repair it. Then you'll see how fast they'll deed it off to the city. But it's a very difficult area, and they patch it. And I appreciate the fact that DPW went down there and patched it. That added some comfort to people traveling along there. But it's been patched for the last 8 years. And when you have a good rainstorm, that all washes out again, and it becomes a nightmare, and there's no other way, more or less, around it. So I'm just asking if that could be carried over with their recommendation with the state. Thank you.
Okay, all set. National Grid pipeline replacement, Councilor Cirillo.
Yes, I thank you for the report. I do see that National Grid has indicated that the project may start construction in the fall of 2019 pending all city and state approvals. I would request to refer this to the environmental subcommittee for further discussion, review, and presentation.
Making a motion to do that?
Yes, I'm making a motion.
By Councilor Elliott.
Council, as indicated earlier, National Grid would be available to come speak before the council on April 24th, if that's the wish, and you convey that to the manager's office, we can get them there for that date.
Okay, so.
Or have them, they can go before the subcommittee.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
was thinking, that we could have them go before the subcommittee and have some residents, there, and have a little bit more of a discussion.
Okay.
With the city. Thank you.
Any other subcommittees scheduled that day?
I think there are subcommittees on the 24th. We'll have to get the date for the new one. I believe there are. I think we're into May.
Councilman Milazzo.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up, and I appreciate the information. As you know, they've been doing quite a bit of replacement over in the Douglas Road area, Glen Ellen. I know that Glen Ellen is actually on to be put on the paving list, but I just don't know if they're planning to come back and actually, for instance, Draper Street now is a very busy street up to the Sullivan School, and the work that they've done digging up and putting in the gas line is such that it's going to cave in at some point. I just want to make sure, and we can put it on as a discussion item, that someone is going to be responsible for turning those streets back to their original condition. I mean, I know a couple of years ago when we talked about Glenwood, with all due respect, what's going on in Glenwood with not only the removal of some of the trees, but also how the patching has been left along that entire stretch. So I just think we need to get it in front of somebody to make sure that the streets are repaved. Thank you.
Are we all set with the motion passing? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Downtown window displays, Mr. Kennedy, Councilor Kennedy, you all set?
No, I would move that the motion responses, the communications regarding motion responses be accepted.
Okay. Well, we have the energy efficient. Do you include the energy efficiency?
One more information.
Any discussion on the energy efficient? Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you. I think this is a very exciting program that we're going to be looking at. I'm not requesting an answer tonight, but usually energy procurement contracts are not subject to public procurement. And I'm just wondering if at the end of the day, if we're successful in getting any funds and we go out to get a company, if this in fact will be subject to either 30B or 149 or whatever. So I'm not looking for an answer tonight, but at the end of the day, I'd be curious to see if it would be subject to.
Again, this is approached. There was going to be a resolution offer tonight, but I just thought that it's kind of a long-term program that we're looking into here in terms of developing a department and managing an department. So I've kind of said, listen, put information on. Diane Trott's here tonight, information on to kind of familiarize the body with it, and then it'll be on the desk of the city manager Donahue.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Solicitor?
This would be exempt from 30B. Yes.
A motion made by Councilor Kennedy to accept and place on file. I need a second by Councilor Cirillo. Thank you. Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just had a question, Solicitor. Somewhat related, I know the Attorney General is pursuing litigation against, I believe, is it Direct Energy for overcharging customers? Is that something that will, that it certainly affects the people, ratepayers in the city of Lowell? Is that something that we need to sign on to, or something will be included? So, I know it's across the Commonwealth, and clearly there's got to be people affected here.
Right, we have been working with the Attorney General's office to some degree, and we can prepare a report. We'll reach out to them, see where they are in that matter, and then on our behalf, and prepare a report.
Okay, all right. Thank you,
All
Mr.
set?
Mayor. Yep.
All right, next, communication. Accept the resignation of Killian Minch from the Sustainability Council. I need a motion to accept and place on file. By Councilor Cirillo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Thank you. Motion passes. Orders from the city manager. Order 60-day trial, waive the full reading, second reading by title. Pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6, therefore entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations, are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Need a motion to adopt by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Noon. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Nun? Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Councilor Cirillo?
Yes.
Councilor Conway?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilor Leahy?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay. Next, we have ordinance from the city manager. Ordinance amend zoning chapter 290 by amending various sections regarding marijuana. Motion to refer, I need a motion to refer planning board for a report and recommendation on May 7th, 2018, and to public hearing on May 15th, 2018 at 7 p.m. I need a motion by Councilor Cirillo, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Motion passes. Thank you. Subcommittee report, environmental flood issues, their report.
Hi, yes.
Cirillo?
We had a very exciting subcommittee meeting with regards to the banning of plastic bags. We had a lot of speakers, and we also had Gunther here from the recycling, and it was a very robust meeting, and so. Yeah, we had a fantastic group of speakers, and it went very well. And we have 2 motions that have come out of that meeting. So that we're going to put on for the following week.
Any follow-up? Councilor?
Thank you. So I'm a member of that subcommittee, and I'm not sure why the motions are not coming forward or at least being discussed for the members. I think I asked after the meeting that, people need time to process, and I completely agree with that. But I think members shouldn't be kept in the dark as to what took place if they were not able to attend. And had I known that, I would have filed a motion if we're just going to delay for 2 weeks. And I'm not sure why. But I do want to say, because one of the motions was to adopt a resolution, or for the manager, city solicitor, to adopt a resolution to support a bill that is moving through the legislature. And that bill is to create a statewide law which I think is what we should be doing. I understand individual communities are doing it, but I think it put the city in an awkward position. I understand the need to the impact that plastic bags have, and the number of millions or billions that are used every year. But one thing I do want to share with members is that we had a gentleman come up, and these are biodegradable bags. And if you can see, one of them is Roach Brothers, big supermarket chain, I know certainly in the Boston area. And they're biodegradable. It's something that, we should be looking at. I asked the gentleman to come back, but this is, for some reason, I don't know, it's being delayed for 2 weeks, but I think at least members should know exactly what took place if it's going to come back, because the same thing will happen in 2 weeks. So I guess I'll file a motion on the resolution, because I think it is timely, and just to delay this, for whatever reason, I think the committee should at least give an explanation as to what took place and the time frame. But I'm just a minority person on the on the report.
Chairman, anything else?
Well, we had a good group of people. Actually, everyone who spoke was for banning plastic bags as the city of Lowell. So one of the motions made by Councilor Kennedy was to put forth a motion to ban the plastic bags for the city as the city of Lowell. And we felt that it is a lot to think about and to contemplate, because this is a big choice for the city. So that is why we decided, I agreed with Councilor Kennedy to hold off. And we did. We had a very robust discussion as far as, yes, we have a lot of support in banning plastic bags. Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sometimes, maybe even oftentimes in recent years, the subcommittee meets at 5:30 on a Tuesday, and then the subcommittee reports to the city council that same evening, and sometimes there's a recommendation to be made. In this instance, because it's somewhat controversial, but I think it's a good idea. The motion that came out of the subcommittee was that, which passed 2-1, was that the subcommittee recommend to the city council next week that they support requesting that the city manager and the law department draw up an ordinance that would ban plastic bags in the city of Lowell beginning on January 1st, 2019. The reason that the motion was done that way is so that rather than to have to take it up tonight, when nobody really knew it was coming, that everybody would have a week to digest the pros and cons of banning plastic bags in the city of Lowell come the first of the year. And it's as simple as that. So next week, that the matter will come before us, along with the resolution which merely supports existing legislation that's before the legislature right now.
Councilor Mercia, Councilor Elliott, Councilor Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to plastic bags, our state legislators are currently considering to ban single-use plastic bags. They are doing an in-depth study So I feel that this request to put an ordinance together at this time is premature. I'm willing to wait for the decision from the State House and operate under one universal set of rules and follow an order on a statewide approach. To me, this is the only way that would be equally fair and across the board. That's what I would support. And if in the meantime, these store owners that would be coming under this ordinance, if it passes with the legislature, have a right or a choice and an opportunity to buy a biodegradable bag like Councilor Elliott showed us, all the better, all the better. I'm trying to be safe with the environment too, and I'm doing my part. I got 3 bags in my car that are sturdy bags that I bring every single week when I go shopping. I'm not trying to pass my beliefs onto anybody else, nor tell people how to live, but I do support the environment and the protection. I know people use plastic bags, and I hate to take that away from them, but if we can replace it with something like Councilor Elliott showed us, that would be all the better. And I would support that 1,000%. But in the meantime, I'm not ready to support something that the legislature is working on that we don't have any idea about. I'm not setting my own set of rules until I see what they have. So I would not support this ban on plastic bags for that particular reason. Not to say I shouldn't, but I'm waiting for the state to do, the legislators in the State House to do that.
All right, Councilor Elliott?
Well, my point was just to bring the information forward. I didn't think there was going to be any, I don't expect, it is a lot to digest, but if we don't tell members exactly what took place, then how are they supposed to be able to understand it and, think about it or research issues and then come up with a decision? And by the way, there's no meeting next week. It was canceled. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
Correct.
So, I mean, that's my point. But now we have had a discussion, and members can make their decision, and when it comes back in. But we just had a meeting at 5:30. People are watching. People are tuning in to know what their government is doing, and I think we have an obligation to tell them. And that's very simple. I don't know why we're, trying to keep this information from people that have to make decisions and the people that want to know.
We're getting the information out, but Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to know a little bit more, so I did take a packet tonight. But when we send this off to the law department, is it all bags? Is it just big stores, small stores? Can you give us some information?
All right, answer, Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you. I think that would be the discussion that the full council would have. In other words, the recommendation from the subcommittee would just be that we move towards banning plastic bags. But how that gets done, and there were several ideas that were put forward, would be part of the discussion that would take place next week. And that's why the motion was worded to bring it up in 2 weeks. And that's why the motion was worded that way, rather than to have that discussion right here and now.
All right, so in 2 weeks, we're gonna go through the details of what we're gonna ban. Okay.
We need a roll call or
Well, do we know what those details are? Because we didn't discuss it at the subcommittee. It's just a general discussion. So who's going to bring?
I thought that would be brought up.
Who's going to bring that report in? That's all I want to know. Is it the manager? Is it the law department? Or is it just going to be?
Is that right?
I think you'll have the recommendation of the subcommittee in 2 weeks. At that point, there'd be a full discussion, and this city council can make recommendations and suggest and frame how the ordinance should be. Right. Then that would be sent to the law department. But the idea would be that the whole council can get involved in this issue rather than to have one person or 3 people write the whole thing down for everybody and then just hand it out for them to vote up or down next week.
Right.
I think that it's an appropriate way to proceed on this issue, just because I know that it's a controversial issue.
Councilor Conway?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, just a quick question here. When I was reading this, and I was at the meeting, but I'm just wondering where the 3,000 square feet came from. Why it wouldn't be 2,000 or 5,000 or 1,000? The other thing is, and I certainly understand some of the, excuse me, some of the plastic that would be needed with specific foods, but you know, again, to make a logical decision in 2 weeks, it's funny, when I went home today, I picked up my newspaper, and it's in a plastic bag. And I took the plastic bag out and measured it next to one of the Demoulas bags, and it's about the same size. And it's actually thicker. So I'm saying, well, why would the newspaper, why would the plastic bags be eliminated in that? I mean, again, it's a small item, but I'm just wondering, so in 2 weeks, we're gonna get all the clarification on this? Is that what we do?
Yes.
Because again, I'm still trying to figure out why 3,000 square feet?
Councilor Cirillo, to
Because-
answer your question, see if she can do that.
Yes, because that is what's going through the state for approval right now is 3,000 square feet. So what I did was I made sure that the wording actually adheres to what the state is reviewing currently.
Well, then what I don't understand is why wouldn't we wait for the state to make that, Mr. Mayor, make that decision so there's a consistency throughout the entire state? Because the only thing I'm kind of concerned about is that we make rules and regulations. Let's assume it, for argument's sake, that we do adopt it. And the state then comes in, now we tell our people over 3,000, they have to do this, they have to retool, and to make sure that, that the ordinance is taken care of, fulfilled in Lowell, correct? Now, the state comes in a month, 2 months, 6 months later, or whatever, and has a different set of rules. They're gonna go back to those businesses, and they're gonna have to retool. I mean, as far as I know, they're pretty close to the decision. I don't understand why we couldn't wait for that decision, so there's consistency. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Kennedy?
I think the answer to the question is that in 2 weeks, there can be a discussion and a decision on whether it should be 3,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet or 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever. Likewise, there can be a discussion over whether or not biodegradable plastic bags should be allowed, or and so forth and so on. All of that stuff should be decided by the full city council, not just by the subcommittee. And so that's the reason for all of that stuff. And to just wait you've got 61 communities so far in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts out of 351, about 20%, right? Who have already taken it, made a decision on this and have banned plastic bags. So we can, in 2 weeks' time, after having a full discussion, decide, you know what, let's just do nothing and wait for the state and see if they pass their legislation, which I bet isn't gonna pass. I'll bet it just ends up dying. But I could be wrong, and maybe it will, but that's still, even that decision, whether or not we do nothing and wait for the Commonwealth to do something, that's a decision that can be made in 2 weeks' time as well. And should we decide to go forward with an ordinance that ends up being different from the state law, then we can always just amend the ordinance at that time. Everybody should remember that although the discussion would take place in 2 weeks, and we would be then sending that to the law department, and that the law department then would have to come back, and there'd have to be a public hearing because it's an ordinance. So there still is a good amount of time in a lengthy process that has several intervals at which there can be a full discussion and debate on the entire issue. That's all that there is. It's just that instead of doing this all tonight, I thought it would be, and a majority of the subcommittee thought it'd be better to do it in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks' time, everybody would come in here with their questions ready. I don't think everybody's got their questions ready right now.
I'd like to, Councilor, I'm sorry, will the city solicitor offer?
Just quickly, with respect to the issue that has been discussed, and I understand there'll be a fuller discussion the next time the council meets, but with respect to the state, regardless of what the state passes, the city can always adopt regulations that are stricter. So it doesn't we don't have to be in exact compliance. The only thing that we would ever be prohibited from doing is if the state passed a law, we would have to at least meet that law. But we certainly can go beyond it for an issue like this or any other.
Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is why it was referred to the subcommittee. Subcommittee came back and gave, had a discussion, and members can talk about it, and then, presumably, in the past, we'd have some form of an ordinance, so there's not 9 of us coming up with 9 different ideas, which would make sense. I don't know if there is any opposition. Well, it doesn't matter to me. I just think that this is why you have a subcommittee. We came forward. I make a motion to accept the report and proceed with, discussion at a late, because there's no meeting next week, so I don't know how we're going to discuss this, but for 2 weeks.
I second it.
Second? Are you all set, Councilor Cirillo?
Oh, yes, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion passes. By Councilor Elliott and seconded by Councilor Levy? No, Noon. Thank you. All right, petitions, claim, property damage. Need a motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation.
So move.
By Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Cirillo. Thank you. All right, City Council motions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If there's no objection, could we bundle together motions 9.1, 9.3, and 9.7?
I second it.
9.1, 9.3.
And 9.7,
9.7.
that was going to be my...
Everybody went to the same meeting and filed the same motion 2 days
Yeah.
later, so it's...
That's
I'll
right.
second that.
We're all set. All right, the first one's by Councilor Mercia. City manager find ways and means to create children's neighborhood playgrounds next to 517 Moody Street and city property in the acre section of the city. Councilor Noon has required city manager to direct the Parks Department to install swings and slides on City Park located next to St. Joseph's Apartment, 588 Moody Street. Councilor Kennedy requests city manager to initiate plan to upgrade and improve the public parks on Moody Street. So,
Second.
second by Councilor Conway. Well, we have 3 people there. Thank you. Who wants to speak on the motion?
So,
Councilor Mercia?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Kennedy's right. We all went to the same meeting. We spoke with the neighbors, the neighborhood people, the residents, and they said this was of a concern to them, and rightfully so. This is something they need for their children, recreation in their neighborhood. So I don't want to speak for the rest, but the motion speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Noon?
I second everything Councilor Mercia said.
Okay. Councilor Kennedy?
Yeah, I don't want to say much more, other than this is a park that probably nobody thinks about because it's kind of tucked away on Moody Street, but this is also a neighborhood where the families that live in that neighborhood need this park. And I think it's certainly ripe for several upgrades and better lighting.
These are good motions, so thank you. We're all set? Okay, motion passes. Okay, by Councilor Noon, request city manager install civilian cameras in the treasurer's/collector's office. Councilor Noon?
Seconded by...
Oh, I'm sorry, second by Councilor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I believe particularly the treasurer office. I know that in the past I learned when I filed this motion that the clerk offices also has civilian camera installed as well there. I'm not sure if it's still on. So reason I filed this motion is because treasurer office really collecting money, payment, taxes, water bill, and so on and so forth in big amount. So for the safety of the employee there, we should have the camera there to really, help make sure that our employee are safe and make sure that if something happened, that we, a quick response from the police department. So, and that's the reason. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Thank you. Councilor Lee?
Thank you. I understand the motion. I just think that we should, when we look at this too, we should just be fair across the board. So maybe in the report, we should look at, should we have cameras in a few different offices that deal with any type of money or important documents? I just don't want to feel like we're singling out any offices. I know that you're using the monetary reason, but we shouldn't be singling in one specific office out. We should just be fair across the board. Thank you.
Councilman Nazar?
Thank you. I think the intent of the motion is good. You walk into banks or credit unions and you see cameras all the time. I don't know, in this particular case, though, if we have to have a sign that says this area is under public surveillance. The other thing, I don't know if this is something that would have to be brought to a bargaining unit to actually install the cameras, because obviously you're going to be filming employees on a 8 to 10 hour basis, whether or not that's something that needs to be bargained. But I think the intent is good. I think it should be referred to the city manager's office for further study. Thank you.
Those are very good points raised. Thank you. Any further points? Thank you. Next, by Councilor Cirillo, request city manager provide the city council with a report on the potential installation of short story dispensers at strategic locations. I need a second by Councilor Kennedy. Thank you. Councilor?
Yes, actually, I'm pretty excited about this. These are short story dispensers. Currently, there is one at the Prudential Center in Boston, and so what they are is they're dispensers of short stories that are written by the people in the cities and towns. So it's I'm just gonna read a couple of things about them. We always believed, in France, we always believed in the power of short literature and the fact that it is particularly adapted to the modern world as a way to bring back people to reading. There are, in December, the short story dispensers put out Christmas stories, and we always work with the community to identify the best texts, and it's short stories that are, there's so much information here that I want to say, that are written by people in the city. Currently, there's a short story contest for Penn State. So Penn State is having a contest to see what author is going to be in the dispenser, and I think it would just be really fantastic to have, for example, a contest with UMass Lowell to have short stories written, or have Lowell High School students have stories written, or even the middle schoolers. It's about community, it's about writing, it's about art, and so in France they have 7,600 authors and over 100,000 works, and it's about getting people off of their cell phones and reading. They have, and there's I think 22 in Northern America currently, and one is right at the Prudential Center in Boston. Actually, I was hoping that we would have the first one here in Lowell in Massachusetts, but the Prudential Center beat us out. I would like to find out more about this and what the cost would be. They are installed in libraries, and it just seems like a really fantastic thing to get the community involved in writing stories, get the children involved, get the students involved, get even Lowell authors involved in writing these short stories and getting them into these dispensers, and for people to just print out and read. And it doesn't cost anything to the consumer. It's on biodegradable paper that's recyclable. And so there's a lot of really fun and great things that I think that would happen. And the first dispensary was actually in one of France's municipal buildings, and it was a huge hit. And Now they're becoming very, very popular in libraries, and so I would like to know a little bit more about the cost associated with something like this. And I think it's a community builder. I think it gets people off of their cell phones. People are reading more. I think it's a good thing, so thank you.
Council Mercy, then Council Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to comment on this motion as gently as possible because perhaps this motion was intended for the right purpose, but I view it in a different way. I view this motion as a service that could be provided to customers visiting coffee shops or areas where people wait to pass time at a train station waiting for a bus or a train, at a doctor's office waiting for their turn to be seen. Not so much in a restaurant because I don't want to be in a line to be seated only to have someone reading a story while I wait in hunger. This service should be offered from business owners, not from a city through taxpayers. We have more pressing issues on our plate with opioid problems and the ever-present realization that our Narcan stock is almost depleted. There is a utility tie-in issue in the Hamilton Canal area and a myriad of other pressing issues. I would suggest going to your friendly library or use your cell phone if you want to read a story, but not dream up ways to cost the residents and taxpayers another way to spend their money. I also do not want this machine placed strategically all around the city. We do not need vandals to spew more paper and litter over our city even more. There are questions to consider. Do we need to hire a person or persons to maintain and stock these machines with paper? Because information on the website, and I did look it up too, their dashboard says that site managers are alerted when the paper rolls run out. So not only are we paying for the machine, but we're paying for attendance now to be alerted when the paper rolls run out. It almost seems like we're getting punked here. If you want a report, I'll give you a report as to what I found out on numerous websites. I understand that these machines cost anywhere from $8,000 to $11,000 each, and paper is not inexpensive. We also must pay $195 a month for a content subscription to pay for the people who write these stories. If we agree to a grant to put one machine in the local library, the grant is for a short time span, and we're stuck to pay for it ourselves in a short amount of time. I would not do that to our taxpayers, especially when we are cutting school teachers and school personnel. That money could be put to better use. I would also like a roll call on this motion, please. Thank you.
Councilman Conway.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that, again, I think the motion is well intended on it. When I look at what we were talking about tonight, we've been going back and forth about how our schools have to be maintained, where the money is going to be coming from. We're talking about cutting $2.5 million from the school department. And if you take a look at some of those titles, we're talking about social workers, we're talking about guidance counselors potentially, and other staff members. If we take a good look at take a tour of the police station, I think if somebody here owned that particular building, it would probably be condemned. Take a look at the fire stations, take a look at what we're doing in the different parts of the city, paving the streets that are certainly badly needed. And again, I think that we're also looking at a new school that's going to cost anywhere from $350 to $375 million. And I know that this might not be a lot of money, and I think that Councilor Mercy, I have figures of somewhere around $8,000 to $10,000 myself when I took a look at it. And I'm just wondering, where do we get that money? Where's it come from? We're talking about trying to maintain and trying to keep roofs from not leaking and heating systems to work. And, again, to take a look at this. Cell phone. I went on the cell phone and I took a look at it and said, short stories. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of websites on that. And I realized that, you know, you can press a button for 1 minute or 3 minute or 5 minutes and so forth, but I just don't think that, right now, I don't think we can afford it, the city of Lowell. I mean, and I'll stop with this. I don't want to say that we're going to put in a half a dozen or a dozen of these and then turn around and tell the parents that we had to cut a social worker or we had to cut a guidance counselor or a police officer. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you. Again, let's not lose sight of the wording of the motion. They're looking for a report from the city manager. And at the end of the day, it could be that you're correct, we can't afford it, or we decide we're going to go to the Pollard Library Foundation and ask them to put 1 or 2 somewhere in order to have them available. We have a very active author group in the city of Lowell, be it Paul Marion or Steve O'Connor, and you can just go down the list whether or not they would be interested in supporting something like this. Again, they're looking for a report. And to suggest that we're not going to take care of the high school because we're going to be putting a half a dozen short story dispensaries, I'm actually insulted by that. Last week, we all voted to spend $156,000 in a van to outfit the van, which was very important to do. But at the same time here, all we're looking for is a report. Again, in my neighborhood, right around the corner, we have a public book dispensary. And again, you know, people share books in the neighborhood, and it's just a good way to bring the community together. So again, we're looking for a report. To suggest for 1 minute that we're not going to be able to put a roof on the high school because we're going to put school dispensaries is incredible to me. We're looking for a report.
Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We asked for a report on a lot of things. That does not mean that at the end of the day, we're going to say, hey, spend all the money on that. Report is to look into things, and if we can't afford it, then be it. Of course, every council sit here. The priority is education, safety, and that is the priority. Yes, if a report comes and say we cannot afford it, then be it.
Any further discussion? Councilor Kennedy?
Yeah, let me just say, I agree that what it does, this is asking the city manager to provide a report on whether or not it's feasible. It's already been pointed out to us that they have one down in the Back Bay in Boston, that they have about 20 or so in France, and that there's several dozen at other locations in the United States. All it is a new idea. It's just something new. It might be a good idea, but we're never going to know if we're just going to shut it down every time a new idea comes to this council. There's nothing the matter with asking for this report. And it sounds like some councils, in preparation for this motion, have already done research. They could probably provide their own report. But I would prefer to wait for a report from the city manager on whether or not this is feasible to do, or at least to try out on a pilot basis, where we just try one, see how it works. You know, if you think about this, it doesn't have to be the existing authors that we have here. This could be something where the high school could, or the middle schools could have contests, and that is what might be the short stories. And this could turn into a good thing. Now, I don't know what the report from the city manager is going to say, but there is nothing the matter with looking at new and fresh ideas, and that's all this motion does.
Councilor Cirillo?
I also wanted to note that they hope to eventually include translations, allowing authors to be read internationally as well. At some point, our objective is also to have worldwide community of writers and readers, and have some Asian authors read in Europe or America, American authors read in Africa or South America, etc. So they're also translating the short stories.
Councilor Conway?
Yes, thank you. I mean, I agree with the fact that information and ideas are good to put on the table. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I certainly will vote to get the report on it. But again, when a councilor said that councilors have already looked at the information, well, I think that's what we're supposed to do when there's motions to put on, to research it, to find out whether they make sense or not, and whether it's something that they want to back up or not. So again, I don't mind the information, but again, what I have seen so far, what I have read, it might be short money, but once again, yeah, you're right. When you're talking about a roof or a heating system, no, probably it's not gonna offset that. But if we can't afford certain things, and then we go out and we put together something like this, and as I said, $8,000 or $10,000 a piece, who's going to maintain them? You're going to have to have somebody that's going to oversee it? Well, anyways, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Leahy.
Sure, I just want to add that, we ask for information all the time, but I think the point we should be taking from tonight's meeting is for the next 6 months, we should be concentrating on the schools, on the streets, on what's important to the community. When the gas leaks and the roofs leak at the high school and the other schools need attention, let's try to focus our motions and get the manager's office on working on issues that are affecting the city. Some of these are good ideas, sure, but let's, we could ask some of these questions to the manager without putting on a motion, and let's not tie up the manager's office with some of these motions. Let's just concentrate on what's important to the people of the city, and right now, it's the schools. And we found that out tonight. So let's work on the schools for the next 4 months and get that under control, and throw, if you have some ideas like this, just call the manager's office and ask them.
I'm requesting a roll call. I want the public to see how we're wasting the city manager's time when I just gave a report as to what the costs are. If you think you want to have a few in the city and spend that money, fine, but I just gave a report. 1 minute we're reading to dogs in an in the library. Now we're putting these machines all over the city. I think it's frivolous wasting of time myself, but I'd like a roll call.
Okay, I'd just like to make a statement. The thing, as an educator, I mean, what I see is just a report, a motion asking for a report. I'll always support that. And the issue is, Councilor Leahy, you're correct. We have to keep our eye on the ball. But at the same time, there are issues in the city to make this a city that we dream of people coming to. And that's the ideas like this, good, bad, and different, but the thing is we have to take ideas like this to make this a better city. So I'll vote in favor of seeking a report. So roll call, Councilor.
Well, I just want to, I think one of our jobs as a city councilor is to come to these meetings, and you look at the motion. That's why we get the motions in advance. We get them on Friday. And to do some homework. We're paid. That's part of our job, to make decisions. So part of making a decision is to do your homework and do research.
Correct.
It's so easy. So you come in, you can make informed decisions. Sometimes we can't just do it, immediately. I understand. But we can also present the argument why we should be doing it and how much it's going to cost. I mean, we have motion after motion on things it's going to cost. How much do we expect the taxpayers of the city to pay for? And we have huge numbers, and we can say, well, it's only a few thousand here. Yes, it adds up. And we're in the business of running the city, and then maybe private organizations can do this. And to me, we hear a discussion about what the logistics are. Part of this job is just using some common sense and being practical when we're spending the taxpayers' money. And maybe some think it's a good idea, but you can't do everything. You can't do everything, because when the budget comes in, people are going to say, well, I don't want to raise taxes, and we need these. This is a priority. We have some very, very expensive priorities that we kick the can on. And to me, it's a luxury that the private sector, if it's to their advantage, can do, but I just don't think the taxpayers of the city should fund this. And we all know we're going into the digital paperless age. That doesn't mean we don't want people to read. I mean, people are on their Kindles, they're on their laptops, they're on their phones, and they read. That's why it's, people get news feeds. So, that's my point.
Thank you. But I think we're seeking information. We have asked for roll call. Councilor Kennedy.
Just quickly, I agree with Councilor Elliott that there may be other people, I mean, that's why we would send it to the city manager, is there may be other entities that can pay for this. It could be that the library has grant money available that they don't apply for because we don't have something like this, but it fits. It could be that the Lowell plan would be willing to pay for something like this. There's a whole bunch of options that the city manager can look at that nobody on the city council has even given one thought to. And that would be a reason why you'd send it to the city manager, just so that it can be vetted and then come back with the reason why it's a good idea and how it can be funded, or a reason why it's not.
Roll call.
Counselor Mercia?
No.
Counselor Milonazo? Yes. Counselor Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Counselor Cirillo?
Yes.
Counselor Conway?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
No.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Counselor Leahy?
I'm sorry.
Can I answer?
I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
Okay. I apologize. Watching the hour. Next, by Councilor Cirillo, request city manager instruct the proper department to provide reports of any broken street lights that are in need of replacement, and the report have protective options for the lights. For example, a grate placed underneath. I need a
Second.
motion. Second by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Cirillo.
Hi, yes, this motion came from the same meeting as the park. We're putting in new lights, and some people are breaking them because they are very bright to keep the light away from areas of the city. And I really would like to have someone go through and look and see which of our lights are broken, and maybe find a way to have it more difficult for those lights to be broken, or have some kind of protection underneath our lights, because we are, as a city, spending a lot of money on new lighting throughout the city. So I would like to have a report on that, so that we can protect our lighting and our citizens, so that they can be more safe with the brighter lights that we are implementing throughout the city. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott.
So I think the larger picture, it makes sense. We want to make sure any lights that are broken, I think they're usually pretty current, right? Did people just call into the city? Because this came from a meeting where it's at the housing authority, or in close proximity, right? And they break it because they want to party. Quite frankly, that's what the woman explained. So I think it makes sense to put grates on those areas where they do get repeatedly broken. But the larger question is, from that meeting, was the police and the housing authority police, and the concerns that the residents have. So if I don't want to, this is about street lights, but we don't meet for a couple of weeks. So if the police chief can meet, contact the housing authority police that are literally on site. People are afraid over there. They're afraid to say something because of fear of retribution, and it probably warrants a motion to discuss it itself, but I think in the interest of time, if the maker of the motion doesn't mind, I think the street light is clearly one issue, but the follow-up was, people are afraid to say something. They're afraid to call the housing authority police because that ends up coming back to them. So it's just a larger issue, but I think the street light issue makes some sense. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, just very quickly, Mr. Mayor, through you to the acting manager, do we have a process now? Because, I mean, I think Councilor Cirillo is right in this. Seems like there's a lot of lights out. I mean, I didn't realize it when somebody on my street said to me, this light's been out for a year and a half. I didn't even notice it. So what is the process now? Do you?
There is a process, Councilor. Mr. McGovern will outline that. He's been familiar with it.
So they come in various ways. The website is a way that they can contact, residents contact DPW directly. They contact our office, the mayor's office. And sometimes, unfortunately, you know, we can repair the lights, we just need to know about them. And sometimes we find that happening where a light is out and just nobody calls, so it goes unrepaired for a little bit. But we do have, obviously, the city electricians are out there on a daily basis fixing lights. We also have a private company that comes in every Thursday to fix lights. Sometimes it's a little more complicated and it takes more time than just maybe fixing, changing a bulb or something like that. And typically, we get a report. I think it's every Thursday morning. We usually get a report, and on an average, you're probably talking somewhere around 30 streetlights that they have identified this company, or that they are taking a look at, and roughly somewhere around 20 lights also come off. So they give us a report of what's out and what they're working on, and then what they've repaired as well.
I thank you for that. I think that that there are a lot of people out there that probably don't know the process. And I'm wondering, how do we get that information out there to reinforce some of the methods that you just outlined to fix those, to fix the lights?
I mean, we can post something on the front of our website. We have the ability to send out, through Twitter, a number of different accounts, so we could actually send out a reminder or a notice to the general public. Between the Twitter account here in the manager's office, the Twitter account over at the police department, fire has one, and emergency management services. We can send something out, and through our Facebook pages as well. And the engineer actually has a Twitter account which has a lot of followers.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Any further? Council Leahy?
I mean, we must have something we have something on the website, right? That you go and you report potholes, lights out, broken sign, yeah.
There is on the website, and that's how some people contact. I mean, you know, I know the council's received the emails from residents, so that's part of the process.
Okay.
All right, motion passes. Next by Councilor Cirillo, request city manager instruct Division of Planning and Development to compile an updated inventory of vacant upper-story downtown office business spaces, including how long they've been vacant. Motion by Ms. Kennedy, seconded.
Yes, I have the most recent report, and it's dated August 31st of 2017. And it's a new year, and with the new city manager coming in, I think that it would be great to have an updated report as to the vacancies in the downtown. And it's really important to find out about those upper floors. I'd like to spark the conversation to start getting some solutions and what we as a city can do to help maybe with this issue, and maybe get are there different incentives that we as a city can help the community with, maybe working on updating those upper floors. So this is just basically, I'd like to get a report to see what's out there that is vacant, so that maybe we can start moving forward with the city and trying to help bring more businesses into those vacant areas. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, motion passes. Next by Councilor Kennedy, request city manager add Glen Allen Road to the repaving list and take immediate steps to repair the potholes on Glen Allen Road. Councilor Kennedy?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, second by Councilor Milano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I called earlier today and found out that Glen Allen Road is not on the list, the repaving list, so it would be good to have it be on there. And I'm not suggesting that it's the worst street in the city. However, if you go in about 200 feet from Douglas Road, there is a large pothole, and I guess when buses or large vehicles go over that pothole, it causes structural damage in some of the homes in that area, which which is something that needs to be addressed much more immediately, and might even move Glen Allen up on the repaving list. Because I do think that if you've got a pothole such that when a large vehicle goes over it, that it causes, you know, cracks in people's walls and stuff, that's a pretty serious situation. That's all.
Any further discussion? Okay. Next, by Councilor Kennedy, request LTC consider installing the apparatus necessary to televise the subcommittee meetings and other appropriate events in the mayor's reception room. I need a second by Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It just occurred to me that it might be, and also when discussing it with the LTC technician who was in the other room several weeks ago, that it would be a good idea if we had the capability to televise meetings that went on in the mayor's reception room. Not just meetings. It would, first of all, create another venue for subcommittees so that rather than to have subcommittees in here, if you want the subcommittee meeting to be televised, you'd be able to use the mayor's reception room. On top of that, the mayor's reception room, as you know, is used for many ceremonies similar to the one that was held before the council meeting this evening. And it would allow the city to have the capacity to televise those meetings, which I think would be a good thing. And on top of that, if those meetings were televised, it probably would mean that you wouldn't have to do anything in here afterwards. You could do the whole ceremony in one place. Anyways, I'm not sure how much it would cost to equip that room with that, but I do think that it's certainly worth looking into. It would double up the amount of opportunities that we have for subcommittees to meet.
Any further discussion? Councilor Mercia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a very good motion, because sometimes there's board meetings in here when we need a special subcommittee meeting, and instead of telling them they have to leave, we have it in there, and it would be a good idea to have that happen. Also, I'm concerned about last week when people called me and said that they got up to a certain point in the meeting and it went completely blank. That is not acceptable when we pay a franchise money to LTC and people are tuning in and they're losing the whole meeting. That's not right.
Will that be checked out? Will that be checked out? Is that done? Okay. Thank you. Announcements. The first announcement, the City Council will not meet next week due to school vacation. Any further announcements?
Just have a couple, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lowell High School community meeting at the Lowell High School cafeteria will be held Thursday, April 12th at 6 p.m. We've been working, there'll be translators there, and it's just part of the process for the MSBA. And Mr. McGovern has some other scheduling information concerning the MSBA too, so we just want to.
So we were just notified the other day, yesterday by Skanska, and we wanted to update the council and the general public here tonight. Some of the dates that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks of May 9th, right? If you remember, May 9th is that date that Skanska and Perkins Eastman will package up and submit the new revised PSR to the MSBA. That May 9th date is critical for us to get on to the either the May, I think it was the 23rd facility subcommittee meeting, or the June 6th. More than likely it was the June 6th, which then would get us and keep us on schedule for that June 27th. The MSBA informed per Skanska yesterday that their schedule is going to be full for both the May date and the early June date. However, they did ask if Perkins Eastman could have everything packaged up and be ready to go for May 9th. So they will have almost a kind of a separate facility subcommittee meeting for the city of Lowell on May 9th, which would allow us to stay on track for that June 27th meeting. So it's May 9th, which originally was the submission date. Now it will really be a separate facility subcommittee meeting. The main thing they'll be looking for at that date will be making sure that the preliminary floor plans, which Perkins and most of you have seen at this point, the preliminary floor plans for the new options downtown match up with the education plan that was recently revised and submitted to the MSBA. So we will probably be sending out an invite or a notification to not only the City Council, but obviously the SBC, as we always do, and as we do send out communication to the superintendent and request that he submits it, sends the invitation out to the school committee as well.
Will the SBA need the costs at this point?
I'm sorry?
Will the SBA need the costs? MSBA need the costs? I mean, there was originally,
Will
Oh,
a cost
but-
estimate be available on May 9th?
They were supposed to be.
The cost for the new options?
Yes.
No, Mr. Mayor, the options, well, they will be, I'm sorry, yes, on May 9th, they'll be available. We'll be receiving the cost estimates, the new projections, on, I believe, April 26th. So you'll have those before you vote on May 1, and then before the PSR is submitted. Those cost estimations, both Skanska and Perkins Eastman's estimators will be vetting those numbers separately and then sitting down together to come up with those final figures.
We have to make sure that all of this happens. Okay, thank you. Council Kennedy?
Do the community meetings, do we have to reschedule any of those to meet that,
The May 9th, no. So we were going to have to meet that May 9th deadline anyways, because Perkins initially had to submit those documents. So, everything will be still on track. We have the meeting this coming Thursday night, and then I think the school building committee, or I know that the school building committee voted to have another school building committee / community meeting on April 30th here in the council chamber, and then scheduled for a vote by the city council on May 1.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councilman Milonazo?
Just from a timing standpoint, if that April 30th is on a Monday and May 1 is on a Tuesday, how do we get the agenda fully prepared to mail out on Friday? We're going to do some sort of substitution? I mean, if we're having a meeting on Monday, will there be changes to the agenda, do you think, or not?
If I may, Mr.
Council,
Mayor,
yeah.
I think there could be language on the agenda could reference what is going to be happening
Okay.
on the floor that night.
Okay, thank you.
Any further announcements?
Move to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Council Kennedy, second by Council Noon. Thank you.